And also, I'm Mike Duck out.
Greetings, Patrick here, Eight Questions With, and we are here for early show on Monday. Another fun-filled week of shows, and as you noticed, I am not alone today. We will be talking to two very elite musicians, John Christ, guitarist John Christ, and the return of our good friend Jerry Montano. They will be here shortly, and we are here with Jonas and James from the Friendly Men.
What's
What's
going
going
on,
on, potato
everybody?
guy?
Hey,
Nothing much, man. Just hanging in here, Glad to
Yeah,
be here. Always good to see y'all.
good to
yeah,
see
well,
you. Good to see you.
I'm excited to speak with Jerry for the first time. Actually, speak with Jerry.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I didn't even think of it that way. It's true, yeah.
Oh, okay. You're a great guy, Jerry from the
Yeah,
Friendly.
yeah,
Um,
and,
that guy, he's like the new prototypical rock star. He's just all about the music. Uh, that's what he's concentrating on, and he's got a new record. I know we're going to be talking about. I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's going to be in the mastering stage. I think he's going to be releasing it. I definitely know he's going to be releasing it this year, but it'll be interesting to see when he's going to drop it. Um, so that'll be very exciting to talk to him about that. Of course, the mighty John Christ from Danzig, and he also teaches too, right,
correct.
John?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a teacher, music teacher. Yeah.
Can you imagine walking up to somebody there and sitting there going like, "Man, you play guitar pretty good. Where'd you learn that, John Christ?" What? What?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, uh,
Go ahead,
uh,
Pat.
hey, hello, greetings. Glad you guys are here. Man, how are you?
What's up,
Uh,
man?
yeah,
Man,
there's an Adventures in Arizona rolling in. Also a musician, if I'm not mistaken. I know that our mutual friend Marshall is a musician, and so hopefully maybe Marshall will stop by and say hello. I see Ava came by and dropped. Oh, she's out filming videos. And there's Ant reviews things. That's right. Uh,
Ants.
wow, that's three of the four. All we need now is Mark, and we have a friendly men takeover.
It's all
yeah,
right. We got we
yeah,
got
absolutely.
we got three working branches of government right now. That's all we need.
Uh, that's right. I'm glad you guys. This show's gonna be a lot of fun. And it wouldn't be possible if I didn't have help from James and Jonas in putting this together. Uh,
Hey, Concrete Spew, he's a new guy who just followed the Friendly Men,
Nice.
and he loves our work with John. And we're happy to have you, Concrete. And get your questions ready for both of these gentlemen here.
Yes. And a new fan, thank you so much. If anybody's new to the channel, which I'll probably be saying this a few times, anybody's new to the channel, feel free to sub to my channel. We do a lot of interviews, and we're going to be doing more. We're going to be doing more interviews with more bands, more musicians coming up. That seems to be a popular a popular topic that people want to talk about. So we're going to do our best to do that. Um, yeah, John and Jerry will be here with us shortly. Probably about 10, 15 minutes, I'm thinking. We just went up a little early.
Yeah,
John,
we got to talk about what you have going on, Pat. What
me,
you have you have two major interviews coming this week, and
actually,
Concrete
That's right.
Spew,
this whole
Concrete,
week is major.
but
This whole
Concrete Spew is a fan of I Am. So please, Patrick.
nice, nice. I'll tell you what's coming on because this is like one. This is probably the biggest week I've ever had from start to finish, as far as terms of the level of guests. I mean, these are all A-listers for me. Um, of course, today we have John and Jerry will be here. Tomorrow night we are talking with actress Elise Mola Devereaux at 8 o'clock. She is one of the stars of the new kick-ass science fiction film called Space Wars. The Quest for the Deep Star. She'll be here at tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Then the 14th, we have the lovely Carrie Ann Fleming will be here with us at 8 o'clock. She's an excellent actress as well. And then on the 15th, we have another singer-songwriter and an actress. John Marie Mack will be here. That is a grail guest for me, boys and girls. I was like, like I said, you have a list of people you want to talk to, and you keep that list by your desk. You're like 100 people, and you put if you ever get a chance to talk to somebody, who would you want to talk to? Well, I have a list. And John Marie Mack is one of them. And she'll be here with us on Thursday at 8 o'clock. And then in the 18th, the mighty Yui Bowl will be with us, along with English film director Amina Hatri will be here with us at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock Sunday, we will be talking to Yui Bowl. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to Yui.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that one.
I think I'm a fan of his. I do. I have not watched any of his movies that I've been disappointed in. They're all been entertaining as hell. And so I am a fan. So it's gonna be very exciting to be able to talk to him about his films, and he's got a podcast going on. We'll talk to him about that. So yeah, it's a pretty fun month. And then we got I Am, the new super group. I Am is going to be visiting us on June 27th at 8 p.m. The whole band, I Am. Their new single. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, Concrete Spew did a video of his reaction of listening to the I Am song, which is actually really cool. And after he did that, I sent that to Andrew, who is the manager of Corpse Paint Records, who's putting it out. So, yeah, that's going to be really exciting, actually. I'm really happy about that. So,
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, Pat, before our guests get here, what are some of the things that you want to find out about both of these individuals? They both are worldwide musicians. They all both performed with Danzig. They both toured the world. They both have I don't know if John is a horror movie guy, but we definitely know Jerry is. What are some of the things you want to learn about these two gentlemen today?
Well, I definitely like to know about the dynamics of the band, because that's always fascinated me, being a talent buyer. You always want to go inside, how a band works. You got 4 guys or 5 guys or 5 band members. Like, how do they interact? Do you hang out after a show? Does that go away the longer you're together? When you first start out, everything is so exciting. You got a set full of songs. You go ahead and make T-shirts up. You make cassette tapes. You maybe do a 7-inch record. I mean, it was like hype. You get together. Every time you see the new band, you always notice the same band members always together because they're friends, and it's new. And then eventually, the longer you stay together, you start, like when you're not touring together or you're not recording together, because you've read this, you'll read this about, like, I haven't seen Joe since we got off tour. Well, that was like 5 months ago. Well, you haven't talked to him since then. I mean, it's sort of a weird dynamic. I mean, how do you, to me, it's like, I would think that you would want to be together a little bit, at least stay in touch, at least like, once every other week or so, just to see how each other's doing, like how's life, or, how's the family going or whatnot.
But you got to think, though, when these bands are touring in a small tube for 6 months out of the year, you need a separation from those guys at the same time. Everyone does have families. Everyone has their own kids. I mean, sure. I mean, it does happen. They need to do it. Don't you agree, Concrete Spew? Concrete Spew. I love that guy. Concrete Spew rules, man. Jonas, you should sub to his channel too. He's a great guy. Yeah, think about it that way, Pat. I mean, what'd you say, Jonas? Oh, Jonas is going to come right back. So, yeah, think about that, Pat. You're in the tube. You travel all over the world. You've all done these things. Like, think about it. When you're those 4 guys in Typo Negative, all 4 of those guys were together for at least 20 odd years, and they know everything about each other. So when they finish a tour, they just, they have to,
I guess in a way it's sort of like it's sort of like a marriage in a sense, but still,
absolutely.
You still gotta, still want to. To me, that you have to stay in contact. Like you could go away for, see who this is.
Yeah. Hey, Steven. Hey, Doomsday. John's here. John is here. Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry's here. And
Top of the morning.
And you brought coffee for us.
Yeah, you're muted, Jerry. All right.
There I am.
Hey, Jerry, it's so good to finally talk to you on a video chat, man.
How are you guys?
Good.
We're great.
Having some coffee. That's like, I don't drink. My only vice is I have to have
my cola. Yeah, I got my
cola. You know what? We're raising it with you. We're coffee for life.
I just went and grabbed a mineral water.
There you go. See, I was up working late last night in the studio, and it's either like I drink too much at night, then I come back and my brain's going, and then I wake up and I'm like, fuck, okay. So what's happening, everybody? Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Yeah, hey Jerry, this new guy, Concrete Spew. He just recently found us through our JC interviews, and when I said we're going to have Jerry Montano, he's got questions for you. So, by the way, before John gets here, let's talk about Destroyer X. Where is that? Is it in the mastering process? How soon are we going to start seeing that on the market?
Right now, I've got all the guitars done because I'm playing guitar on everything. I mean, I did it all. You know what I mean? But the drummer Wade, he did his stuff weeks ago. He was playing with Doyle for a while. Wade Murph. He played all the drums on it. I played all the guitars, so I got all the guitars, all the scratch. Like bass stuff because I want to have guest bass players on the whole record. A lot of basically all my favorite and a lot of the people that I admired growing up with, and then people that I'm friends with. So right now I'm just doing a lot of vocals. I've been in there about 6 days a week. Between like 4-8 hours a day. Just singing. But it's cool, man. I'm excited about it. The song's shaped really well together. Everything it started as 10 songs and ended up as 14. So it's all coming together, man. I'm really excited about it. It's totally different than anything I've ever done, which is cool, but it's all me because it all came out of here, So
yeah, that's awesome.
Is it master? Did you take it? Are you mastering it now? The new record?
No, I'm still recording it. We've been recording it for about two months or so now because it took some time to get all the drums handled and then everything worked out with that, and then doing all the guitars because there's a lot of layers. It's like,
What's the average length that does it take to record a song in a studio? How long does it record one song?
I mean, they all vary. Some songs have less. I tend to have a lot more. I don't, it's just kind of how my brain works, So with my stuff, it'll maybe take a little bit longer just because of the overdubs and the layers and stuff that I like to put on it.
So do you like to record live, like with your drummer and everyone, or do y'all just do separate tracks?
No, I basically I wrote it all. I recorded it all at home.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of had a basic idea of where the drums are sitting. So it's set that my versions sound all together. You know what I mean? So I already know the transitions and where things are. And then I take it to him and then I give it to Wade and then he kind of catches a vibe on it and then will give me different versions of it. And then I just go in and record over it.
Yeah, I guess it's more convenient that way too. That way, you don't have to.
I mean, that's really how anybody does it. Stuff, what I mean? Whenever like old school days when I would do a record at like Sound City or something, and 99, 2000, mid 2000s, the same way. I mean, it just guitar player would play a scratch guitar track while the drummer tracks his drums, and you just erase that, you know, and later on go do all your stuff. So
now, Jerry, by the way, I know I mentioned this earlier, but man, what an incredible video chat we're having with you, man. We've been talking to you for months. You finally get to meet Jonas instead of Jonas hiding behind the scenes.
I know. That's why I'm always like, Jonas! Jonas has become famous through all of our friends, just like, Jonas!
You have every stream you go on, that's the first thing you say is, Jonas!
That's the first thing you ever see anybody say. Everybody's like, Jonas!
Yeah.
You know it's gonna be fun. You know it's gonna be fun. It's like this is Jonas's last hurrah before he goes up north for a couple of months, right? So I'm thinking between the time that he leaves and time he gets back, every video that we do, every live stream we do, we need to go out there and say, "Yo, Jonas!" So like when he comes back, because he's not gonna have any internet up there. But when he comes back, he'll have like 200 videos where people are sitting there going like, "Yo, Jonas."
So all right,
overwhelmed.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Now I'm saying now we're like, yo, JC, where are you?
I just texted him. I texted his buddy, and I'm like, "Hey, Jerry is here."
I talked to him. I talked to him a little. I don't know, maybe about hour and a half, 2 hours ago.
Okay, so he's definitely gonna. You know what he's doing? He always comes with an entrance, man. Like when I had the Vinner Sword guys, we didn't even know John was coming, and I got these dudes from Sweden that want to meet him, and I'm like, "Hey guys, tell me about your new album. What's coming out?" And then he shows up blaring Devil's Plaything in his barn. It's like that's a wrestling entrance right there, you know. But we have you, and I want to know the lyrical aspect of the album, because you said you stopped drinking, you've had a lot of demons that you've overcame them.
Yeah,
six pack. Jonas is still working on his 6-pack.
When it comes to the songs, they just write themselves. You know what I mean? I mean, of course, it's my subconscious, but it's a lot of like, the fucked up things that you go through or happen with or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's real. When I started writing the record, I didn't write it to make a record. I was like just popping back and forth from doing rat songs with Stephen Pearcy, and I would come home and started fucking around with Logic. And as I kind of started to get a better hang of it, then the first couple of songs came together, and they were just more like kind of like punk rock kind of songs. I was always into punk rock shit, man, growing up. Like I was more, certain times in my life, like I started with like in Kiss is like my number one my whole life. And then, as I became a teenager, then early, probably very young, when there wasn't a lot of music, it was like, Wasp on the first and second record and shit like that.
Best records, man.
You know what I mean? Like The Last Command, I was like, and at that point I already didn't like Kiss because they, it was like, ooh,
lick it up, man.
Yeah.
I think when they did Beth, I think I could hear the noise of all the fandom just jumping off the bus when they did Beth. They're going, "What the hell is that?
Oh,
is that a ballad? What?"
Beth is awesome. It was just more like Asylum era, where they're wearing like pastel colored fucking shit. But Lick It Up had great Gene Simmons songs. A lot of those records you can find great Gene Simmons songs. But anyway, so then I kind of got into Metallica, and I was into like heavy, and then I found like all the old punk rock stuff, and that's where a lot of this element comes from like my love of Social Distortion and
Negro. That's right. We talked about that.
Jones,
he's one of your buddies. Yeah, that's right.
He's gonna be on the record. So he's gonna sing a song with me on it and play on it. So I'm excited about that. But so it's kind of like more in that realm compared to what I usually do, which is a lot of heavier stuff. But it's funny. I think that when you hear this record, you'll hear my influence on the past bands like Hell Yeah, or certain bands, you'll kind of go, oh, I hear that now. You know what I mean? That was one of the ingredients. You know what I mean? So I'm excited about it. Again, it's like from like being into all that kind of music, it just kind of naturally comes out. Like I love Rise Against, I love My Chemical Romance, like that's the kind of shit I like to listen to. Lately, I'm really liking that new Avenged Sevenfold though.
Oh yeah. Now, by the way, I know your daughter just recently graduated from high school. What do your kids like to listen to? Are they like, Dad, we want to listen to K-pop? You're like, no, you're gonna listen to Hell Yeah, and you're gonna enjoy it.
Well, my youngest, she's 8, and she's always like, Dad, let me see another video of you. Dad. You know what I mean? She's cool. She's got her gold record in her bedroom. I'm like, you're a 7-year-old with a gold album. And then the oldest one, she likes a lot of the like emo, like I see on her playlist, a lot of the same type of music. I know she likes like System of a Down, certain kind of like rock bands, but I think she's 18. She's into a lot of different kinds of music. It's not like she's a metal girl by any means, I don't think. But
so not a big Kiss fan yet.
But it's funny when before she was born. That's how when I met her mom and all that, we were all hanging out at System of a Down house. Actually, it's pretty funny. I'm like,
oh wow.
But
go ahead. No, Jerry, come on. You're the guest, man.
Ask me questions.
All right, you know what? Okay, so Daily Dose of Steel is here. Her name is Megan. Megan runs a Peter Steele account, and I wrote to her today personally that you were, you spent a lot of time with Peter and the guys in the band. Is there, Megan, if you're still in the chat, if there's something you want to ask, anybody in the chat, anyone who wants to ask a question with Jerry while we wait for JC, you certainly can.
I loved Pete. We were really good friends. Me and Johnny Kelly have always been like this. And I mean, really, all of us. I mean, we've all stayed super close. Me, Josh, Kenny, everybody. And Peter was like, I was very close to Peter. Actually, I talked to him like a week before he had passed away. And he was supposed to come and visit me at Johnny Kelly's house. And he couldn't make it. So then I was like, don't worry about it, dude. I'll be back like in a couple of weeks or whatever, and then we'll hang out. But he sounded great when I talked to him and everything. But yeah, we had many, many years of good times. But I'm supposed to be going to watch the screening of a new Typo Negative DVD thing. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that or not, but I'm going over to Glenn Hetrick's house, and Jeremy and I he's supposed to screen us like part of the new Typo DVD that they're going to be working on.
Oh, like a new kind of After Dark thing that no one's seen.
Yeah, like the After Dark thing. I was in the first one, the original one.
Mm-hmm.
I was in it a few times, I think. Where they talk with our friend Julia, and then I think there's other stuff. But yeah, so in the new one or whatever. So.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. So, Jerry, questions are coming in for you right now. Daily Dose of Steel. Megan asks if you would like to share any memories of Pete. I'd love that.
I mean, I have so many memories of Peter. I try to think of what you could tell and what you can't tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I had the one Peter story of myself, but I don't.
What's a funny story that really didn't have to do with me, but was, because of our friendship, was we were going on tour one time with the Deadlights, and our fucking guitar player got arrested.
What the fuck?
And we were just like, this fucking guy, we were so mad or whatever. And then he ended up getting out of jail, and it was no big deal. We went on the tour and did it. Well, come to find out months later, how we got out of jail is Peter paid for his bail. Wow. And I was like, man, how cool is that? But there were a lot of times, I have some of his clothes that he left at my house, like a couple of his green shirts, and his sisters, when he passed away, the shirt that he was wearing that night, they cut it up into like strips. like
Oh, wow.
strips out of it and put it on a little safety pin with like a thing,
I've
and
seen
they
it.
gave them to just us and the family and shit.
Hey,
Yo.
there he is.
Oh, all right.
Oh, let's see the new girlfriend, guy. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Well, it's not official yet, but
Oh yeah.
Ooh, what did you name her? What's her name?
well, it's not mine yet. I'm still trying to talk the guy into selling it. This is a 1971 D28.
Ooh. That's awesome. Oh, Jerry, there's some messages coming in for you through the chat, but JC just arrived.
All right.
How you
Sorry
been?
about that.
How you been, JC?
Almost perfect. And you?
Oh man, you got my pictures of my food I ate, right?
Yeah. Some meat. You got some meatballs or something going on over there in Turkey. Turkish meatballs.
So
How
hey,
do I make this screen bigger?
oh yeah,
I think
there you go.
there's actually I'm pretty sure there's
There we
there's
go.
yeah.
Hey Jerry, Concrete Spew said, Jerry, thank you very kindly for being here. I saw you with Nothing Face when you opened for Ministry, and you guys absolutely scorched. Do you have any fond memories with Nothing Face, or perhaps more specifically with Matt?
I mean, there were a lot of good times with Matt. Matt was a great singer. We were friends. Tom and I go back since like the early like '92 for the guitar player. So I met Matt when he first joined the band. Matt was a great singer. He was an amazing lyricist. He had a way of like Glenn. Like certain people have a way with like a dark lyrical content, but not giving it to you in just a dumb way. You know what I mean? Like they have a way of, you can picture it, but it's not like I went to the cemetery and it was dark. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So he had that vibe. We had a lot of good times together. We had a lot of bad times together. I love Matt. We all miss him. You know, we wish we could have. I was trying to reunite the band the year that he passed away. We had a lot of conversations at the time, and it just wasn't meant to be. You know, sadly, I mean, Tom Maxwell and I talk about it all the time. I'm like, well, fuck, we just wanted to go out and kill it one more time because we were fucking brutality, man.
That you guys played with Pantera and Morbid Angel.
Yeah, but we went on those tours like saying to ourselves like we had the mentality of we're gonna crush Pantera even. That's how we were. You know what I mean? It was that we were that driven. It was like it doesn't matter. Get in the way. We will fight. We're going. You know.
On the topic of that, John, when Danzig went on the road with Metallica, those two tours you did with them, did you have the same mentality? Did you want to be better than Kirk Hammett and Metallica when you shared the stage with them?
I was better than Kirk Hammett.
Oh yeah.
You know, at that point, there was no competition. No, for the record, I love Kirk Hammett. He was a great guy. You know, we got to jam together a couple of times on stage, you know, encores, that kind of stuff. The Stone in San Francisco and the Top Hat in Dublin, Ireland, which isn't there anymore. There are probably a couple other places. So we had a great time together. At that point, the first tour, it was all about, you know, brand new record, fresh out. And we were starving. We were hungry. We were so pumped when we got on stage, and the fans were just like rabid dogs. They just could not get enough. And funny thing with the Metallica tour, in the first couple of shows, in the beginning of the show, they didn't know what to think, you know, so we had to work that much harder. When you get a tough audience, especially open up for Slayer and Metallica, you know, that's not easy. And certain places in the UK and Ireland, they spit on the opening acts. You know, it's just like, welcome to town, take that with you. And it's just part of the culture over there. but it wasn't a competition. We were so grateful to be there. The fact that Lars and James and Kirk and Jason were Misfits and Sam Hain fans just made it a lot of fun until we started partying together and things started to break.
Flipping cars over.
Flipping cars,
yeah. So that mentality was just sort of, they had just what was Injustice for All just hit number 6 on the charts. So it was a huge celebration over there. And for us, it was a great warm up. It was right before Christmas, and I didn't have my bitch. It was being repaired, so I just had a couple of Les Pauls. And a friend of Glenn's was my guitar tech, and he knew nothing about guitars. So I had to teach him how to string a guitar, how to tune a guitar, how to hand me a guitar, how to clean a guitar. So it's just like, and we got over there. All the gear was rental. We didn't have a budget for our own gear, so whatever London SIR had left is what you got. And I learned quickly on about the Eurotone. It's just like a bad, buzzy, thin version of your regular tone. But for me, it was initiation by fire. But it was awesome because sometimes we actually got more than 3 feet in front of their set to set up. There were a couple of times when they didn't get to bring in the big set, and I actually had like 4. I could actually turn sideways and not hit Glenn with the headstock. It was great.
Jesus Christ!
Wow.
Isn't that the old days, right? Like when you're like, "Fuck, how am I supposed to do this?" Like, I've been on stages opening up for bands like that, where your foot is around the monitor, and you're like, how the fuck do I do this? And I'm only doing it for 20 fucking minutes. You know what I mean? Like,
it was great. I look back now, and Chuck had like a couple of pedals, a snare drum, and he rented the rest of the kit that traveled with Metallica's gear. Our amps travel with Metallica's gear, but our guitars were in this minivan. So we each had 2 guitars, 2 cables each. A tuner each, and I think I had a stomp box, and that was my whole rig for the UK tour. Amazing. But the beautiful thing about it is I've had some students and fans that have sent me some bootleg recordings. Go figure. And this was before cell phones or anything, so they were actually recording them on cassettes and stuff like that. And the music was actually pretty good. The nice thing about it is the songs were so fresh. We hadn't corrupted them with tour chops and endings yet. So everything was just like the record. And that was fun to listen to that.
Hey, John, there's a Serpent of the Light. Nice Deicide reference there. John Christ is one of my biggest influences. He came into my local Guitar Center and bought a Line 6 Vetta, if I remember correctly, and I tried to steal the drum head he signed, but I was like 11 years old at the time and got caught like an amateur. So this guy tried to steal your autograph off of a drum head. What do you say to that, John?
First, at least he tried. That's what I was saying. At least he tried it. He has the cojones. He tried it. It's like give him credit.
Now wait, a Line 6 Vetta. What is a Line 6 Vetta?
How should I know? I'm not a guitar player.
I don't know, but I don't picture you with a Line 6.
Unless it was when the Kidney Bean first came out. The first pods came out, and they were.
That's probably what it was. Maybe that's the rack version or something.
Yeah, because the Kidney Beans is made out of wood, and it's the shape, and it's red. As a matter of fact, I have one right here.
He said it was 2001, John. He said it was in 2001.
Okay, so that would have been the rack version that I was using for a cover of that. What was that? Enter Sandman I did with
Burton Bell, right?
Burton Bell and Tommy Aldridge and Robert Trujillo. It was for, who was that? For the Kulick brothers. They were doing a Metallica tribute thing. So
I think I was on that one too.
oh yeah, you're on that one too.
Yeah, when Bob Kulick would do all those compilation records of cover songs, right?
Yeah, so it was one of those. So I think what happened is I went out and I bought that because just to get a couple of different sounds just in case, right? Because he wasn't big on gear. He was just like, come in and be an hour or two, you lay down a couple of tracks and collect a check. And I was like, okay. So that session actually paid for that piece of equipment. I think that was about it.
That's about it. That's the truth about that situation.
Yeah, because I got in there and there wasn't a band. Everything was already recorded. I get to meet anybody. And, I threw a Marshall and a cabinet, a 412 in a closet. And they threw, a couple 57s, 58s, 421 outside the door or something like that. And 5 minutes later, boom, we're going. And I said, oh, wait, do you have a wah-wah? And they said, yeah. I said, perfect. And then we were just rocking. So as far as whoever that kid is, yeah, he'll have to hit me up, because I'm around and I can still write, believe it or not.
After all these years.
After all these years, I've been reworking my signature a little bit. They're making those really big fat Sharpies now.
Yeah.
You gotta get the silver metallic Sharpie,
The silver
Right.
metallic. And
Those
here's
are the- those
they
are
got
like
a
the
new
conventional
one.
Sharpies.
Jerry, have you seen the red one?
Yeah.
There's this red one that works great on glossy pictures and stuff.
Yeah. It's like almost like a paint,
they're like the paint markers.
Yep, it's like a paint marker and it kind of glows. And I was getting pretty good at it because there's at one point there must have been a ton of people, maybe 3 at this autograph table. And I was actually autographing, simultaneously right and left hand together.
Right.
Those big markers, you can do that. So it's like the left is the lead. So my right hand would just kind of follow that.
Had you done that before back in the day?
Oh yeah. You come into a place like St. Louis or Chicago or Detroit, and is always, or San Francisco is always an in-store before the gig, right? So you show up, and for some reason this sticks in my mind. I don't know why, but our tour managers, they would bring in a bucket of chicken.
Like whatever the cheapest shit is to bring.
You go in, you're signing autographs for an hour. You're like, man, I need a break. So you go back and you take a pull of water or something, and you get a couple of handfuls of greasy chicken. And then for the next minute, you're getting grease all over these pictures and everything, signing autographs. And then you don't really mind. And then when you're really busy, you go, oh, it's getting late. We got to get to the gig. So they pick up. All they do is they don't tell people to go away. They just start pushing them faster, right? So you're signing faster and faster and faster. And then it's like, I'm at the end of the line. So I'm next to Chuck Biscuits and, so it's Glenn and Erie and Chuck and I. And then it's like by the end, at first, it's like you're taking your time, you're signing, you're saying hello. Over the end of it, they're throwing shit at you. It's like that chocolate factory thing from I Love Lucy, where you're signing this stuff and you're throwing, you're holding paint pens in your mouth and you're just throwing them out, getting them out to the door. And then you rush to get to the gig and they're not even ready for you.
Nope.
No, hey,
never, ever. It's like bus calls at 2 p.m. You're going to the venue. I'm like, why? Because I'm going to sit there for 2 more hours doing nothing. Like nothing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But the good thing about in-stores is all the free shit you get. You know what I mean? Just like going shopping and being like, oh, I can have this. You're like, back in the day when it was cassettes or vinyl and shit like that, and you could get stuff. Yeah. It was fun, right? JC would come out with like, oh, everything,
And those days, I mean, the vinyl would be behind the counter up on a wall.
Yep.
And everything was, the cheapest stuff is like $35 and it would go up to like $200 or whatever. And then, some places, the truck stop, the I-80 truck stops. I felt like some of these stores were like the I-80 truck stops where you go, they had these rotating stands that just have like 500 cassettes.
Yeah.
and you know, from the 40s, 50s, 60s, you know, all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff, and then you go in at like 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever in Dubuque, Iowa, and you're on your way to, I don't know, Cheyenne, Wyoming or whatever, and there's nothing going on. So you go in, you take like $20 and you come out with like 25 cassette tapes, right?
Yeah.
Of shit they
That's funny.
never even, and
You
then
listen to them 3 times and then they break and then they jam up the tape recorder and all that. But yeah, the in-stores were fun. What's happening now, you guys may have had a similar situation where like I just, you know, since 1995, I haven't really been back out there. So I'm just, you know, putting my toe in the shallow end, and I go out and people are showing up with pictures from 1991 at gigs in Philadelphia, conventions in Burbank in 92. And so then they say, can we take the identical posed picture? And I said, yeah, so you can see how much freaking older I look. Is that what you're this?
hey, 92 in Burbank, that was probably the Foundations Forum.
Foundations Forum, yeah.
Those were so much fun, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can't, you know what? Title IX prevents me from discussing how much fun they actually were.
Well, yeah.
Jerry. Go ahead, Jerry. No, Jerry, there's an old question for you that was back from Garth Kid, which John knows. Garth Kid's here. Jason Virus is here. John watching this live. Jerry, I love Circle of Snakes record. Do you have any stories about the recording of the album? Was there any challenges? The songs are all great, though the mix I thought could have been better.
The record.
And then JC's got a question after that. So go ahead, Jerry. Yeah.
Circle of Snakes was cool. Was fun to make. It was working with Tommy, and I've been friends with Tommy for, you know, at that point, probably a good 15, 20 years. Him and Paul Raven went back to the old days, you know, when I was a kid. So it was fun to write with him. I had brought in my buddy Bevan Davies to play drums because I think Johnny was still doing Typo Negative off and on at the time. So I brought in Bevan, who played with our buddy Jerry Cantrell. And, you know, it happened so fast. It was kind of like we didn't even know we were writing a record. It was like, remember that riff? Yeah. Okay, well, that's the song. Okay. So we go in, play it. They would edit it together. And that was kind of how it happened. It happened so fast. I wasn't even aware that half the time I was making a record that, you know, it was like, are we doing scratches? Are we doing, but I would say the cool part of that, and I was making the Hell Yeah album at the same time. So I was like flying to Texas to Vinnie Paul's house, recording for a week, hanging out, and then get on a plane, go back to LA to Paramount Studios with Glenn, or it wasn't Paramount. We did Lost Tracks at Danzig at Paramount. It was another studio.
Sunset Sound or Sound City or Ocean Way.
Yeah, no, it was some smaller place in Burbank. I can't remember, but I remember Fear Factory was in there at the same time. But so we did it there. But the cool part that I enjoyed about that record was I had never done a record with him, so I didn't know what to expect. And I was a Danzig fan from the beginning. I was a Misfits fan because of Metallica, and then I became a Danzig fan because of Danzig. It wasn't like, oh, I'm into it because it was a Misfits. The second I heard Mother, you know, that song had a feeling, especially when it was brand new. When you had never heard anything like that, there was a magic about it sounded like nobody.
Yeah.
And things were very hair metal, and you had this thing that was stripped down, but it had Mother, you're used to hearing it the way you hear it because you know it. But if you had never heard any of that kind of music before and you first hear it, it had an eerie feeling to it. It had an unfamiliar feeling and something that you couldn't put your finger on, but it was dark and so different, you know, and
yeah.
That's the best way I can explain it, you know, because again, we take it for granted because we know it so much now. It just seems like this song, but at the time when it was brand new, it had this energy. Would you agree, John?
Definitely. You know, We get a lot of questions about that song, and that was one that percolated and went through many iterations over a long period of time, and eventually we hit on the right tempo and the right feel, because it was sort of coming from, we were still Sam Hain at the time, really, when we started working on that song. It hadn't been all changed over to Danzig yet. And we've been playing around with it for months and months and months. And when Rick Rubin and George Drakoulias came in, they were like, whoa, great song, but man, it's too fast. You guys got to slow that, tap the brakes on that.
Can you play the original, how it sounded, John? Can you play it for a few measures?
I can't. No.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I don't. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Do it.
Well, it's the Mother of Mercy version, right? The old version.
It sounds like Let the Day Begin.
Got a buzz here. I got an injury I'm kind of rehabbing here.
Oh, I couldn't tell. You sound great.
Oh, those
Yeah.
that don't know, ignorance is bliss, as they say. Okay, so in the early days, when we were messing around with it near Yvonne's basement, because that was our deluxe rehearsal studio, it was that. It just kind of was really, really fast. It didn't have any of this. That was all kind of Rick Rubin, George Drakoulias, early Angus Young type of blues thing. So it was like, it's funny. When I met Rick Rubin, he was recording the Cult Electric album at Electric Lady.
That's a bad fucking record, man.
Right? And we were in the lounge there as they were tracking a cover of Born to Be Wild, and we were watching VHS tapes of Dave Lombardo with Slayer. And Rick had just signed him, but David quit. So he was looking for drummers and all that. And I gave him a couple of names and everything. But so we went to hang out in the control room, and we were listening to some of the stuff from that was going to be the Electric album. It didn't have a title at the time yet.
Wow, how did that sound at that moment in time? Like, wow.
Jerry was incredible because first of all, I had just come from auditioning for Sam Hain, right?
Right.
Top Hat on 28th Street, and Rick was like, let's go get some pizza and go hang out. And I was like, sure, because I was talking to him after. I said, I said, I think Erie liked me, but I don't think Glenn liked me very much. I don't think I made him happy. And he goes, don't worry, what makes me happy will make him happy. I was like, okay, I'm ready. Let's go get some pizza. So we ended up picked up some pizza. We went into a studio, and it happened to be Hendrix's studio, Electric Lady, with the purple carpeting and the tie-dye wallpaper and the 6-foot receptionist. And I was like freaking out because I wasn't really taking it seriously at the time because, I was in college and I was a newbie jazz snob, But when I walked into Hendrix's studio, I mean, go in and see those strats on the wall. I was like, I took it seriously. So we went in the control room and we're listening to Love Removal Machine and everything. And that was the first time I ever sat behind a real Neve board. Neve board with Yamaha NS10 speakers, not powered, old school. And my hair was blowing back from the woofers of the speakers. And I'd never experienced that before. And it just made the hair stand up on my arms and the back of my neck. And I just got chills. And I was hooked. I was like, this is what I'm doing forever. I didn't So by the time we got to recording and everything. It was almost like, I look back now and it's just like, wow, we had unlimited adrenaline. It didn't matter what time of day or night it was. If somebody wanted to play or rock or wanted us to go again or go hard, we could easily get there. Boom.
Sure.
It was so fresh and so new, and we didn't realize how good we had it because it was still Def Jam, Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin, and we'd have, dinner at the BBQ, and we'd see Run DMC and LL Cool J and all these people. We were just label mates, right? I didn't know much about those guys. I just heard the names before. I was probably more impressed by the Beastie Boys walking in than I was those guys. But when I talked to, the employees at the record company, they were just like, oh, yeah, things are blowing up. Things are going crazy and blah, blah, blah. So, I was completely spoiled to be working with these guys with a seemingly unlimited budget at the time. And it was just a struggle because we didn't know that it was going to take so long to get the first record out. Well, long to us,
Mm-hmm.
Because even a week seemed like 2 years back in those days. But so does that answer your question in like 5,000?
I have a question. What?
Hey, Patrick.
He said hi, Patrick.
Oh, hi, John. I'm just kicking. I'm just digging it.
Hey, so I have a question. Were you when you guys? I was a fan first, and I've told you this before.
Yeah, you saw John with Danzig, right? You saw Danzig with John, right?
I saw him on the first tour. I saw him on Lucifuge. I saw him every time they ever played. When I was born and raised in Sacramento, so I was out waiting by the tour buses when they played with White Zombie and Caius. I remember meeting John and Erie and Chuck, and like I was a fan and huge, loved Danzig. It was a game changer for me. But my question was, because I ended up through Danzig really falling in love with Trouble. And still to this day, Trouble is one of my fucking bands. So I was curious what you thought of Trouble and if you had heard of Trouble before Rick worked with them. And
a Chicago band too.
So I think first met them when
they were Z-Trope? Maybe Z-Trope?
I don't know the name. I just remember there was an incident in Chicago when we were opening up for Slayer. And I'm not sure, was it the Fox Theater? It was a nice old theater, all kind of sculptures and stuff's on the walls there. But anyway, we were opening up for Slayer and we got there late. We had no sound check because there were so many Slayer fans surrounding the theater that the limo could not get to the backstage door. And the funny thing is, and this happened on the Metallica tour too, the kids outside that were there early thought we were Slayer, right? So they didn't know who Danzig was. They never heard of us, So we it was that classic Spinal Tap thing, we just couldn't even get to the gig on time. And I can remember running up on stage before the show started. I'd never even seen the amplifiers before, right? Never saw them. They were plugged in, they were ready to go, and just trying to 30-second line check to make sure that things were actually working. And we were late, so it was just I just remember the show not being our best effort. And somehow we got through it. And by the end of it, they were moshing, in the front of the stage. And my first impression, of seeing Kerry King was wearing the gauntlet with the pound of nails.
Oh, yeah, the classic. Yeah.
The classic old school thing. I was like, how the hell is he doing that? And after I asked him, I said, how much is he weigh? He goes, oh, it's a pound, a pound of nails, like a box. And I'm like, okay, cool. Okay. And hanging around backstage, I think, was Trouble. And, so that was the first introduction. And then I was surprised when I heard that Ruben was going to record with them. And then, one thing led to another, and we took them think it was for a short tour. It might have been Lucifuge, something like that.
I saw it. It was like Agony Column or something like that, and Trouble.
Yeah, and I can remember. Let's see, Chicago is great. I know we did like Midwest and Northeast type of thing, like with the old Rochester, New York type of stuff. You know, Buffalo, the Armory at Buffalo.
Isn't the Agony Column an old novel?
It was. I just remember there was an opening band, and I'm almost certain they were called Agony Column. And the bass player had this gigantic bass. It was like pointed or some huge thing or something. But I just remember it was Trouble and Danzig, and it was the Lucifuge tour in Sacramento. I distinctly remember that. But that made me. I didn't know about the old Trouble stuff, and then when I went back and listened to it from there, I was like, fuck, this band is badass.
No, they were really heavy. You know, they were really heavy. I remember they had a great singer.
Who just passed away, by the way, recently.
Yeah.
Oh, it's sad. I didn't know that.
Of COVID, yeah.
Those records are so good. Even Manic Frustration.
Yep.
Both those Rubin albums. Wow, that guitar player, like just the overall. He took the Black Sabbath tone and then mixed it really good with like the Thin Lizzy harmonized guitar parts of that a lot of people refer to Metallica from, but they come from like Thin Lizzy, really, you know. And
you know, I remember they had a really good crew too. You know, it's funny what as a player you remembered. I don't remember all the band member guys, but I remember they had a really good crew. And the guitar player would get these tones, and the sound man was really good at mixing it, because I would go and watch them from the front of house, and I was just on stage. I was like, didn't sound anything like that up there, and he's like, oh, you know. So it was interesting to see, because I liked the way he played and the sound that he got, and with the style of music, he could have it that heavy and that grungy, but it would still cut through. There was enough definition, you know, where when the real grunge thing came, it was just like a wall of roar, you know. Yeah. The guitars they were undefined, but they would still just roar. And if you had two of them, then it was just like this big, you know, full fat thing. Like how Soundgarden was when Chris Cornell would play his Les Paul, you know, then all of a sudden it's just like this huge thumping. I can remember it would COC and Soundgarden and Danzig, and I'd be back in the dressing room and I'd be like, Chris is playing, right? And they're like, yeah, he's playing, because the whole theater would just kind of start to surge, you know, when they were playing. But yeah, Trouble was good. I remember Rick Rubin was really excited about it. I mean, he really liked the songs on that first record a lot.
I think it was it's one of those records that a lot of people don't. The people that know it love it, but a lot of people never caught on to it. But it was almost like it was a little too, it was like ahead of its time, yet retro at the same time, in a time when things were getting really super metal. And I think they kind of were in this weird place, but
yeah,
listen to that.
And at the time, you know, Rick, I mean, his goal wasn't to have the ultimate single. He didn't really care.
Right.
He wanted great songs, and he wanted a great sounding record, and he wanted all the bands to do well. And he was really, you know, into getting them on the best tours he could, that kind of thing. So, you know, there were so many new groups coming out at the same time, and the metal, it started flooding the market. And they still, you know, you had the Aerosmiths and the Motley Crues and the Scorpions, and all those guys were getting the heavy rotation. Metallica was still trying to break into it. You know, Guns N' Roses, they were getting heavy rotation, right? Welcome to the Jungle was like this huge freaking hit that was everywhere. Appetite was just, you know, it seemed like every 4 or 5, 6 months they'd release another single, and boom, it would just, you know, be ridiculous rotation. So it was kind of like, you know, metal was sort of on its own, just to go and do the tours and get the bodies in the seats and get the word to spread. You know, we weren't getting videos played. We weren't getting airplay. We were just touring and selling a lot of freaking T-shirts.
Well, you don't think MTV was going to play It's Coming Down on MTV?
Oh no, not the unforgettable. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, hey John, look, I'm so sorry, Jerry. Go ahead.
It's Coming Down. I always were like, wow, that was going there.
Oh, that's nasty.
Were you even like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah. That's totally what I was thinking.
You're like, there's a dick in our video.
That's being like tortured and stabbed too.
Yeah, I mean there was all kinds of stuff that was going on in those videos, and on the set itself, you know, you had little people, you had giant people, you actually
naked people.
You had a couple of hermaphrodites there. It was quite an inclusive group, if you will.
Yes.
Very inclusive, yes.
But it's funny.
It's a good way to put it, yeah.
You don't hear a lot of, like, even just when people discuss, you know, because I watch all the podcasts and stuff, people don't ever touch on those things. You know what I mean? They're like, they stick to the main points of things, but there's always certain things that I'm always like, God, if I could have been a fucking fly on the wall, I wonder what was going on around that time. But it seems like that was kind of the transition, right, into everybody leaving and it turning into the Black Acid Devil time.
Yeah. It was a dark time. You know, it was a very dark time, what was going on. And so, I mean, that kind of, it was almost like, all right, what's he doing now? You know?
What's he doing now?
And that's when I kind of came into the fold with Glenn and met Glenn was around that time. Because I think the first time that I actually got to know, you know, meet him and know him and hang out with him was like Black Acid Devil when he was doing Bill Kennedy and Tommy had just joined the band and stuff like that. Yeah. So that was kind of like when you left early on, many years before I joined the band, I kind of, you know, started coming into the fold and, you know, until, you know, eventually I joined the band. But yeah, I was, you know, there was a lot of cool things, you know, that, you know, I would go to the storage and, you know, there's so much of the old stuff there. And I would just be like, dude, you know,
the chickens. Did you see the chickens?
Yeah, and like all like John stuff and Bullwinkle.
Bullwinkle, that's right.
Old original Bullwinkle that's like 500 pounds of wood. You know what I mean? Like, it's like
foam. You know?
Yeah, it's like I pictured it so differently, and then you see it, and you're like, "Whoa, that's really it." You know, cool stuff like that. Or, you know, I used Erie's old amps for years because they were like, actually I ended up with one of them a long time ago, but what's cool about them were they were these SVT classic reissues that Ampeg only made 500 of, and each one of them has a plate on the back. They're worth a fuck ton of money because what they did is they found the old parts from the original SVT 70s classic at Ampeg, and then in '86 they made 500 of these, and Erie had 2 of them, and there
are still former road crew guys in physical therapy from that, moving those around now. You know, because if you ever lifted one of those heads up from the ground,
I have one that's heavy as fuck,
and placed it up on the cabinet, which is almost 4 feet high, right? It's probably good with casters on it, it's 48 inches, and the heads are like 65, 70 pounds or something like that.
They're like 80 pounds, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, you know, they were heavy, and I think they were 10-inch speakers in the cabinets, right? They weren't huge speakers.
810s.
Yep, they just moved a lot of air with that stuff. So yeah, and I sold some of my stuff to Ace Von Johnson.
Oh, look at it.
You know, there you go.
There it is.
I still have my original, like
nice.
that he gave me back in the day. You know,
that's excellent.
Yeah.
Hey, John, way back in the chat, someone wrote this message to you. John, you are an absolute legend, and it's tremendous. All caps, John.
Oh, go
tremendous.
on. No, please go on. Really.
Please.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, let me elaborate.
Tell
Tremendous.
my bank lender that. Go ahead.
Okay, tremendous honor to be able to connect with you. My question is, to this day, nearly 30 years after the 4Ps, the fourth album's Invocation. God damn, I'm an English teacher. I can't say this right. Still scares the hell out of me. Can you talk about that track at all? Invocation.
Yeah, it's just a creepy thing that Glenn just wanted to put on there. You know.
Oh, that's great.
Well, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of extra stuff on the track, right? And it was just sounds and loose things that were put together. And a lot of times Glenn would be reading books at home.
Just like in the VHS tape that you guys put out.
And he would get inspired by something like that, and he'd come into the studio and start messing around with some ideas. And sometimes I think by that time he'd gotten the electric keyboard, and he started writing some stuff at home on that. And he would actually put together some music for intro tapes from this, keyboard that he got for Christmas or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, and he would bring some of that stuff into the studio. And so I think that's what it was. And we had some really good engineers that could get more out of the basic ideas and thicken it up, The biggest thing about the fourth record that was fun was when Can't Speak came together.
That's one I was going to bring up because of the reverse guitar part.
Yeah.
Whenever we would play that live, no one could ever figure out how to play Can't Speak. But it's like I think it's flipped, right?
Yeah.
Is it Let It Be Captured in reverse?
Yeah, so it was Let It Be Captured, and originally they were doing some edits in the control room, and one of the engineers just said, "Hey, let's do the Beatles thing. Let's turn around backwards." And somebody said, "Yeah, go for it." And it sounded so weird. Oh, you know what it was? They were just running. We had slaves going, so they were running tapes back, and we heard it go backwards across the heads. Across the play heads, and we were like, "Whoa, what the heck was that?" Because when it went back slowly, you hear this washa, cha cha, shatter, and it was like, "What the hell is that?" So we were all sitting there, and I think it was Ruben said, "Hey, Chuck, go in and play a forward beat to that track," and we all sat there while he did that for a while, and then we said, "Okay, I turned the guitar around. I just played along with it backwards and then showed it to Erie. We dropped a couple of notes out of it. And that was the whole song. The only thing we did was we kicked in some distortion and drive, and we put distortion on the vocal, and we just did dynamics, and that was it. But I thought for sure that they would just like throw Let It Be Captured in the circular file cabinet after that, because now you had something cool, and the other one was just kind of like laying there. But they kept them both, and live, that one took me a while to find the right gear to construct the reverse echo so that I could play a backwards track forward and have an echo at the same time. So it's like kind of reverse engineering it.
No one can. That's why he doesn't ever do that song, because it's just like no one can really do. We can't ever get it. Like
nobody could figure it out.
Yeah,
Except for JC.
Well, I wrote it, so what are you gonna do?
What a tremendous story, John.
So
You know
so
what?
what
You know
about
what other one? The
Well,
song I always loved is Stalker Song, and the chords in Stalker Song.
Yeah.
Those chords are fucking cool as shit.
yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah, it's a fun
This,
one.
this is what Pat wanted. Pat wanted live guitar on his program.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so my
When
favorite
when
one.
you wrote Devil's Plaything, those opening riffs, where did that come from? Just a little like those single, the intro riff. Like, where did that?
So that was interesting because I think Glenn called me up on the phone, and he was sitting on one end with his Les Paul, and I had an acoustic guitar at my place. We were both in Hollywood. That was yeah, second. So yeah.
I'm crying, man.
So it started out differently than it ended up on the record because we started out just with open chords. But then Glenn was like, no, I want to do it kind of like a Gregorian chant. Na, 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 na. Oh, I said, oh, you want modal. So then we moved it up. Let's see. Yeah, moved it up a bit. And we did that for a while, but it was like, it's still not quite right. So when we got into the rehearsal studio, I had the electric guitar on, and we just moved it up.
Ah.
And what's funny now is when I play it live now, I do it all harmonics. I'm going, why the hell didn't I do that back then? So
Yeah, that's always been one of my favorites. That one got me, and I would say
That's my favorite.
Still to this day, if I hear fucking "Long Way Back from Hell," that's just like that was always one of my favorite songs to play because when you play that on stage in front of 25,000 people, there is no feeling, especially that song. You're there to fucking destroy. It just that song makes you feel like the Incredible Hulk. Like we are here to destroy you, and it's just my favorite thing to play. But like, I'm so grateful that you created those songs because that particular song, that to me is like the epitome of the heaviest of heavy.
Oh, the dive bomb in the beginning too. You know,
with the hi-hats.
yeah, right. Just yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing that was great about it, and I've told this story before, and I'll repeat myself again. And wait a minute, I know my friend Garth. Let's see, in Northern
Jason
Ireland,
is also here too, John. Jason's here.
Jason Virus is there. So Garth, I got to tell him to make sure that Ariella is practicing her roundhouse kicks. Okay. So anyway, and then that she does get 6 pence to go to the baker's shop. All right. So long way back from hell. Brendan O'Brien was the engineer on that, and we spent an awful lot of time together in the studio. And he was still in transition from moving from Atlanta to Woodland Hills, bringing his 2 daughters out and all that. And he was just like, whatever Rick Rubin wanted, he just did everything. He said, I'll work for free for Rubin because he's got the Midas touch, and he's taking me to the next level. And Brendan was such a great musician, great piano player. He could play anything by ear. The reason he told me that Rick Rubin hired him was because he knew every Led Zeppelin song in the catalog. Guitar parts, leads, pianos, flute, everything. And that so impressed Rick that he hired him. And he pissed me off because he was a way better guitar player than I was. But that worked to my advantage because we were in the studio for like 8 hours doing dive bombs and just trying to get the sound right. And we went through half a dozen cabinets, 15 different microphones and setups and a whole bunch of different amplifiers and all that kind of stuff. I can remember moving cabinet. It was Sunset. I think it was Hollywood Sound. Yeah, right off of Cahuenga. And, we were in the room in there and just trying to get things working and happening. And upstairs, they had a great lounge with a pool table. And, we actually talked about the structure of the guitar parts and building the sonic wall of guitar from different elements and tones, so to make it easier when it got to the mixing point. Because a big problem that always happens to guitar players is that we create this monster, beautiful guitar tone when we first start to do overdubs. Basic tracks, it sounds like an AM radio. It's just a scratch track, right? Just to be erased and covered up. But then when you go in and you're laying down your rhythms and all this kind of stuff, you start to get this thick wall. And the guitars sound so great until they add vocals and effects. As soon as they start adding that, then the guitar gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
Compression, all that.
Yeah. So Brendan was great. He was a genius because he worked in studios since he was a kid. Started as a runner, I think, in Atlanta.
Wow.
And so he'd been around it forever. And he played lead guitar with the Georgia Satellites before he moved to LA.
I didn't know that.
Yep. So he knew what the heck he was doing. He also played the solos on Black Crow's Too Hard to Handle.
Yeah.
That album, he played organ B3 and he played guitar leads on that album. He was way better than, the brothers were. But anyway, so
real quick, you guys, I don't know if you know who Brendan O'Brien is, but he's like gigantic. A lot of like Stone Temple Pilots, a lot of the biggest bands that people loved, that's who this guy recorded and mixed. So he's like, if you ever want to look it up, look up Brendan O'Brien and you see Danzig on his roster of his discography. You're like,
we're way down near the bottom.
well, I'm just saying, like, it's cool because working with somebody like that again is like stellar A-level fucking a bad motherfucker who knows his shit. But anyway, go ahead.
And it was great because he was still, he was, I don't even know if he was 30 years old yet.
Yes, he was hungry.
And he was just a cool guy, had a nice little Southern draw, and we worked it out. He figured out how to get the best out of me, and I was just like, I just pummeled him with questions. How do you do this? How do you get this? How do you make this? How do you do that? Blah, 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 blah. He's like, all right, I need a break. Let's go play pool, right? So we would play 9-ball and all that kind of stuff. So, but what we did, though, was we built these guitar tones because Lucifuge was going to be a bluesier record. right? It had elements of Black Sabbath, but it also, 777. So we were trying to all these crazy mixtures of electric and acoustic things being mixed together. That he was great because he set up the mixing engineer to have an easier job. Now, in recording, the original recording engineer loves to do the project from the beginning all the way through to the end. But in those days, when you had the big record company and the budget and the advances and the big studios and the blah, 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 you're in for a couple of months and all this, a lot of times they wanted fresh ears. So they would get the engineer to come in, get the sounds, get the stuff captured, and then fresh ears would come in with the producer and the bigger picture thing, and then they would tweak things and put it all together. But Brendan had done enough projects in Atlanta that he said, you know what, we're gonna set up your tone so that they can't mess them up. And he was right, because like you said, you listen to that record, headphones all the way through. There's not a bad tone on the whole thing. And I was using some shit guitars. I had this old Yamaha acoustic 175 that I've had since I was 13 years old that we did On the One on.
Wow.
And it sounded fine. And I used a Les Paul just with a clean tone. So we just doubled it. And so the electric just gave a little warmth to it, and the acoustic had the definition, and boom, and that was it. And it was great because he already knew what he was going for. So we would, as I was working the parts out and putting things together, he was tweaking the sounds, and he was quick. He'd been doing it a lot, so he was pretty quick. So then we started getting a rhythm where we were getting 1, 2, 3 songs a night. It didn't take that long. And I didn't know at the time what the effect was going to be down the road. We were hoping to have a tight record and a good sound and all this. I didn't get a lot of time to get the guitars tracked. I didn't have a big budget, to rent guitars or amps or that kind of thing. That didn't happen until the third record. But with Brendan, when it was just the two of us, because overdubs and solos and all that, most of the time it was just us doing it. And, he would sit there and play and you could do this, we'd do some comps just to listen to see where we are. But the idea was always, let's get a pure solo without comps. Let's see what we can do. We'll add things in for harmonies and textures, but just let's try and go for the performance. And when he looked at me and smiled and said that was rocking, I knew it. Boom.
Yeah.
And then and it was funny because I instantly, as soon as we got a track, boom, first thing I would do, go to the guitars, restring everything, tune them up, then we would go play pool and then come back, sounds for the next thing. So
when you wrote Going Down to Die, were those songs written in the studio, or were they written in rehearsal room, like in between jamming or whatever?
So that whole record was just a jam record, really. There was nothing done before we got into the recording studio.
That's all.
Wow.
They were just parts that we put together and, tried to get the best vibes out of them that we could. And it was already, Glenn was he was beginning that phase of
BDSM,
being at the tail end of a style and really getting into it. But by the time the stuff was coming out, it was too little too late, and the quality was not high enough to have the impact that he envisioned when he went into the studio. And when the record company was like, you know what, all we need is another Mother, just something close, 3.5 minutes that we can get on the radio. Then you guys can write your ticket and go and buy your Malibu ranches. But that wasn't where his head was. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to get away from Ruben. Everything was changing. So it was just like, we were kind of stuck. The music was only going to be to a certain level. It wasn't going to get any better. And so we had to polish that turd as much as we could.
See, to me, Lucifuge is like like one of the crowning jewels of the band.
Yeah, I'm talking about 4 though. I'm talking.
Okay, you're talking about
Yeah.
I'm saying
I'm talking about 4. No, Lucifuge.
like the perfectly written album of all time.
Lucifuge was where everything came together.
Mhm.
Lucifuge was awesome.
Yeah.
It was a great experience for the whole band, you know, because we'd already done one record, we'd already done some touring, we were figuring out some things, and it's musically, Glenn and I weren't like this.
Right, you were on fire at that point, probably.
And I was like, and I knew what he wanted, and I knew what Rick wanted, and I knew what I wanted, and I just had to glue it all together.
Well, it worked,
and it was the blues that did it. So
they tied it all together. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I did with that record, and again with the help of Brendan, like you have stuff like let's see, Her Black Wings. Right, that's the basic thing. But by the time we get to the pre-chorus, that's where my musical training and Brendan's mixing came in. I would change things like let's see. So we would have these harms. So what most people think the guitar part is that's
how we all play it. Yeah.
Right? Or they'll hear this. Right? But there was so much more. There was like so all this other stuff and these layers that we would put in there. And at the same time, Glenn was really, Roy Orbison had died just a couple of years before, and we were all listening to this stuff and the Phil Spector stuff where they were putting grand piano bass notes on everything and the chorus.
That's another thing, yeah. The single piano.
Yeah. Glenn was just doing these big octaves, And Erie took a couple of pictures of Glenn and I where I got a guitar and he's at the piano and we're like working stuff out. But then it was Rick Rubin and Brendan who actually got the rolling sound of the piano underneath the chorus. And I loved it because if you ever listen to Jimi Hendrix Crosstown Traffic,
oh yeah,
there's a grand piano underneath those chorus parts.
Yeah,
and you hear that rolling, and that's what I know Rick heard. Glenn was thinking more Roy Orbison, and then it all just kind of came together. But it had to be tight, because when you had those cuts. And Rick Rubin loved stops in a song. He loved it when the song stopped.
Sure.
That was his favorite thing. Oh, live, it's incredible when you have a stop. So we put stops in and you put them in the record, and that's before digital silence. So
right.
Tapes, right? First, everything's going into a single 24-track deck, and then you start to build up and you're running slave decks and you're doing 48 or you're still doing 24, but you're running the slave for the drums and all the bass tracks. So you're not degrading the sound of the tracks by running the tape across the play and record heads 5 million freaking times. And then you go in. So whenever there's a stop, there's going to be all this ambient noise that's coming through. And so the trick is in those days, part of the noise from the tape machines and the compression is what glued it all together and gave it that warm, fluid, liquidy type sound. When you hear like.
I'm the one
grand piano under all those chords,
Yep.
buried
You
for
don't even know it. You almost don't even know it's there, but that was like a technique, and he still uses that to this day.
Yeah, he still uses that
It's
today.
always in there, but
Yep.
you don't know it's there.
Because it's like the chord is G, and Rick was like, it was funny the way Rick and I would talk to each other, because I'd play chords and he'd be like, no, Malcolm G, which is,
All right.
or he'd be like, no, Page D, which means D with an F sharp on the bottom. So it was like, right, B flat. So those notes would be included with the piano part, which just kind of thickened things up,
Hey, John, there's a great question I just have to ask you from Chris M1234. Question: did you wear the hat in the studio when recording?
No, because I always had headphones on, and unless we were in the control room, like, let's see, you do solos in the control room, but a lot of times I would do rhythms in the live room because I want the sound of the bounce of the walls going back through the pickups one more time, right? To thicken it up. And so sometimes I would sit there on top of my Marshall cabinets, just vibrating the hell out of myself. And I like to feel the shock wave behind my legs, when I played. So that would dictate how hard I'm hitting it.
That's interesting.
So
by feeling.
Yeah.
The hats, no. I mean, in the early days, I would wear maybe a baseball cap, and some people would make me little baseball caps that said Danzig on the front or whatever. And
I can't imagine that.
So it was pragmatic. I had a lot more hair than I have now, and it was down to my waist, and it was in a ponytail, and so the hat would keep it out of your face, and you could easily put the headphones over it. The headphones weren't tight enough, then you took a t-shirt, you cut it in half, and you wrapped it around your head like a bandana real tight, and it would stay on because, we're using Sony, those Sony headphones or whatever, and they were good, but they never seemed to be loud enough.
They never are.
You're always trying to get a little louder. And yeah, so that was always a challenge. So the hat thing, no, this hat actually, it wasn't until much later in the 90s when I actually picked it up. I had an Australian roommate, and this is an Australian cowboy hat. And so, he was instrumental in helping me pick that up. And it helped me get a really pretty girlfriend at the time. So we were both wearing these cool hats and everything. And I happened to wear it in an interview. And that's when the whole hat thing started. It was just random. That's all. It was just a random thing. And it sat on shelves in closets, come out once, a couple of times a year. The last couple of Danzig tours, I wore it a lot just because it was fun, and I was riding horses a lot when I was home. So it was just kind of like a reminder. And moving back to Baltimore, I hadn't even brought it out again. And I think I just like on a whim, I pulled it out, and people were like, love that, whatever. And I was like, well, I'm so glad I wore the hat, because when I saw the pictures of the rest of my outfit, I was horrified. So I was like, I will never wear those pants again. I will never wear a shirt like that again. I'm never being photographed with glasses on again. I'm losing at least 11 pounds starting today. I cannot tolerate the muffin top dad bod any longer.
Now, Jerry, I have a question for you though, because listening to you talking to John about how you admire him and looked up to him and how tremendous of a guitar player he is, like when you joined the band playing these songs, what was going through your head for the first gig? You're like, holy shit, I'm gonna play Mother, Am I Demon, all these amazing songs. What was going through your head from a fan to a member of Danzig?
I think, I was a fan when I was so much younger and I loved the band, but I mean, as you're in the business for years and years and years, you end up becoming friends with a lot of the people that you admired, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like I was in any sort of shock or anything. I was we had discussions of me kind of coming to audition before, but I had my own thing, and I had obligations. So when it happened, it was just kind of like Johnny Kelly was one of my best friends, so he's like, "Yo, Howie's quitting the band today. Nobody knows. Learn the songs." So I was like, "Okay." So I learned like fucking 25 songs. Then maybe a couple of days later, he called me. Hey, what's up? But we already knew each other. So I was like, yo, what's happening, GD? Da, 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 da. And so he said, come down to the office, which at the time was in Culver City, where his comic book place was. And I just sat down with him, and he was like, all right, so do you want the gig or what? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you want the gig or what? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take it, And then he was like, all right, you're the bass player. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, I remember I said to him, so I learned all those songs for nothing.
Yeah, right.
And he started laughing, and that was it, man. It was kind of like, a few weeks later, I fucking went jam with them, and then we took off. I played with a lot of different.
Hey, Jerry.
Yeah.
Did you guys rehearse at Mates in the Valley? Where'd you rehearse?
Yeah, we rehearsed at Mates as well, like you guys did for a long time, and then we moved to a few different places over time.
Bobby and Anthony.
Yeah, we were at Mates in North Hollywood a lot in the beginning, and then we would move around and stuff. But it was cool. It was like there were certain songs that would get me more, and it didn't come like right when I first joined the band where it would hit me. It would hit me in weird times. I just remember one time I was in McAllen, Texas, and we were doing the sound check, and it was the first time we played Going Down to Die. And I just remember all the goosebumps on my arms stood up, because I was like, it brought me back to like Going Down to Die has such another strong emotional.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. That was one of my favorites from that album.
Oh man, it just has such a thing. And you know how powerful it feels live because of the simplicity of the open chords. It's like
that John is playing right now. Yeah.
That was one of my very, very favorites to play live. Such a powerful song.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One of my other favorites from that album is actually Dominion. And it just sounds really cool. Like it's the tone you had was real different, but really cool sounding. But what really stuck out to me was the little ghosty noise that's in the background. I don't know if that's like some sort of what do you call it? What would it be? Feedback noise that there is in that song. It's like, I always call it little ghosties because it sounds like little ghosts. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't know what part of the song you're talking about.
It's throughout the whole song. So you're like ringing out these chords.
Yeah.
And then there's like ooh in the background.
It's probably harmonics and stuff.
I like that song, but I always felt like after being in the band for a long time, there are certain things that GD grasps onto and wants to do, and you're like, okay, well, this is like, there'll be a long going on thing, and I would be like, okay, where is it going? And it's like, that's it. And you're like,
that's it.
Okay. All right. All right, here we go.
That's hilarious. Hey, Jerry, John, Patrick has not said one question to either one of you, and this is his YouTube channel. Patrick,
I am absolutely. This is exactly how I felt when I was watching the earlier interview. I am just sitting here enjoying it, but I will want to get a couple of questions in though, because I'm sure they've been here waiting patiently. And
for an hour, if they're still here.
Well, you know what though, we'll benefit from it. There's one question from Garth Kid Fitness. Question for John: at the top of Danzig, all the band were in top physical shape. Was the working out something that Glenn insisted on, or was it something you guys enjoyed? And what was your workout routine?
So when it was still Sam Hain and I moved up to New Jersey, let's see, Chuck had joined the band. Erie Vaughn and I started working out together, and we went to a gym in Rutherford, and Erie was like, in bodybuilding and training in the old school way. There were 3 different body types. There was an ectomorph, which was tall and lean and ripped, defined, right? Very low body fat. Then there was an endomorph that was big and bulky, big boned, carried more fat, lots of muscle, big. And then there was a mesomorph, which I think it was mesomorph. Somebody can correct me in between. So where did we learn about these? We learned about these through Erie Vaughn's copy of Arnold Schwarzenegger's The Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. It was long before he was in California with Maria.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was before he had to get out. But,
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, JC is actually a professional at impersonations.
That's
Okay.
true.
Yeah.
Well, we would sit there and hand that book back and forth. We would read chapter and chapter. We would copy routines out of that and take them into the gym. And we would be at the gym at like 8 a.m. in the morning, and we were going 6 days a week.
Who, Erie would be at the gym at 6 a.m. in the morning?
Erie would drive me.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
He would come pick me up, whatever apartment I was at. Chuck had just gone to bed.
Yeah.
Right? He had just gone to bed. I wasn't even drinking coffee back then. I was not a coffee drinker. We were just like, let's see. Yeah, we weren't. Well, Chuck drank regularly. Most of his money went to beer and cigarettes. And we were making the same amount of money. Like each of us, we were on salary of $150 a week. So we made $600 a month. And my rent before utilities was $300 a month, right? That's before gas and everything else. And most of the time, or a lot of the time, I had to lend Chuck money because he'd be broke a couple of weeks in. And it was tricky because Rick was in LA working on the Less Than Zero movie, and he did it old school. They signed advance checks every single week. So if he wasn't in New York to sign the checks, nobody got paid. And we weren't the only ones. Everybody in the office, nobody in the record company was getting paid when he was out of town. So things were lean. But every morning, Erie would show up, and I'd take my lifting straps and my weight belt and my gym bag or whatever, and we would go and train and copy these ridiculously long Schwarzenegger workouts. They were like 2.5 hours, like
Wow.
5 sets of this and 5 sets of that and 3 sets of this, and now we got to do giant sets and drop sets and blah 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 blah, and heavy day Monday and Tuesday, leg day Wednesday and Saturday, light day Thursday, Friday, and it just went on and on and on and on and on. And every once in a while, Glenn would come to the gym for a workout, but he did most of his stuff at home. And that's where Erie and I really got to know each other. And he was printing a lot of T-shirts. So basically, he was my glam squad. I got all my outfits and stuff, and we would go shopping to get. At the time, you wore these black jeans, but they had to be twill jeans. They had to be a certain type of material. Wranglers or Levi's were out of the question. You had to have black 18-inch engineer's boots and black twill jeans, and you had to have black T-shirts, cut the sleeves off. You could have red or purple or black or white, and that was it. No other colors were permitted. So
We didn't have that.
my
It was
closet was all black, and I had one flannel in the corner.
Yep.
We're
We're like
so
all black and never ever. No shorts allowed. Don't. No,
Now, so here's the other thing to answer Garth's question. So when we moved to LA, I think Erie hurt his back on the Lucy tour. I hurt my neck from headbanging, so I went to the chiropractor of the stars, Leroy Perry, at the Sports Institute of whatever, and I had to go to therapy 30 days out of the month to get me ready for the next tour. So every single day I was going, and he said, you know, how's your bass player? And I said, he's fine, because he said, well, I want you to bring me in a video of what you guys are doing, because I'm not sure where these injuries are coming from. And he said, okay, number one, you're wearing your guitar way too low. That circle headbang thing you're doing, stop doing it. He said, you're giving yourself whiplash like a 30-mile-an-hour car accident 3 or 4 times a week. You're not recovering. And within 2 months of that, Erie blew his back out. He stopped working out. That was it. I moved out of Hollywood and started training at a Gold's Gym with the big boys. And that's where I really learned more about diet and not overtraining. But at the same time, I was young. I still had a fast metabolism. And so I had to gain weight before the tour, before you go to Europe, because your diet changes. And it's like, I would have to get bigger jeans and bigger shirts and all this. And a month into Europe, boom, I lost all the weight and was skinny again. I was like, crap, you know. Now I would kill for that action. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, John, someone in the chat said you're too dark. Someone said, why is John sitting in darkness? You look like a vampire killer.
Well, that's, you know, it's not dark. It's very bright. Maybe it's the internet. It's how you're perceiving me.
I'm fine with it. It's Chris is saying.
Are you saying you want me to? I can add some light.
I think they want to see your face.
Yeah, they want to see the JC authentic face. I mean, look at Jared. He's surrounded by gold records and stuff. And
you know what? Well, yeah. See, look, he's got
a dark dungeon.
He's got the Hollywood studio. Where are you living now, Jerry?
I live in Burbank, over by the Burbank airport. Yeah.
We got a question. Well, someone asked how much you could bench.
Oh, he's got the dimmable light too.
Yeah. Show us your gold, John. Look at that.
The Danzig Plex.
Yeah, the Danzig Plex. Yeah.
I'm gonna. JC's gonna play on my record.
So I can lift workout benches all day long.
Yeah.
I think JC's doing more farmers carries now. Huh?
Yep, I'm doing the farmers walks. I mean, I walk around. We have a lot of groundhogs and stuff here, so I got to fill the groundhog holes so that the horse doesn't step in it and break his legs. So you take a 5-gallon bucket and you fill it full of river rock. What is it, about 75 pounds?
That's
so
all.
I carry those things around, and when I need it, I come in and I grab my wife with one arm and I, drag her. Well, you know what I'm saying. But I alternate. So one Monday is the right arm, Tuesday is the left arm.
So, you know what, Jerry, this is a great question here. Haunted by Horror asks, looking back, how do you view the impact of Danzig on the music industry and its legacy within the genre? And what newer bands that you guys inspired do you think are doing interesting things? Haunted by Horror is asking that.
I think definitely, I think 1000% that Danzig has become, it's cool because over time, it's only grown. You know what I mean?
Sure it has.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that
Jonas is 21 years old, man.
And a lot about what the timelessness of the band. That's badass.
Yeah.
And
who's that guy you holding there, John? Yeah.
So,
I think I saw that guy on an album cover once.
So what's interesting about this is there are a couple of murals in my hometown in Catonsville, Maryland. And what's that?
There's a mural?
Yeah, there are a couple. And this one, as you come into town, any Marylanders, exit 13 off of 695 heading west. You come off the exit ramp, you turn right, and you go like 50 feet, and boom, there's a mural, and I'm on it.
See, now that's next level shit when you got a mural. I don't got a mural.
So here's the funny story about this. So I'm there. What you don't see in the picture is a couple of nephews were there. You know, my mom was there. My dad was there. My dad was a great trumpet player, right? But this was, they were doing the dedication of the wall, and there were some other local musicians. There were steel drum players. There were acoustic guitar players. A bunch of people that have played in this area. Bluegrass was big too, and so it was kind of an eclectic thing, and it was an honor to be on there. And ironically, one of the artists, Ed Williams, was a neighbor of my mom's, and that's how the whole kind of connection thing came up. And so I sent him an old rock and roll magazine where I had the bitch and the old studded strap and everything. And they copied it, and they even sent me pictures as it was in progress. So there were like 5 or 6 different artists that did this whole wall. Some just did backgrounds, some did faces, some did, you know, the rest of the bodies and everything. And it's so funny because my dad was the kind of guy, he should have been an insurance salesman, because whenever you're going anywhere, his line was, "Should I bring my horn?" His trumpet. "Should I bring my horn?" Like, "No, Jack, you don't need your horn." So my dad brought his trumpet to this thing and insisted on playing with me.
That's cool.
Now, he didn't know Mother, but he was like 85 years old. So it was like, "All right, Dad, we'll play whatever you want." You know, but it was a thing. And so Ed Williams is the artist name. My wife's name is Nancy Williams. So they're not related, but it's just kind of like one of these small world type of things, you know. Which is kind of cool, because it's like, yeah, I got gold records and I got some stuff like that, but this is sort of
that's
like
a whole other level. That's cool.
And
I got a Godzilla poster.
Yeah, and this picture right now, I was not healthy, and I didn't know that I was sick at the time. It was a happy day, but I look back and go, man, you know, you ever look at a picture of yourself when you weren't feeling well or happy or sick or whatever, and you're going, oh my God. It flashes right back to you're in your body looking out and remember somebody taking the picture, and then you think about what was going on in your world at the time. And I was like, now I look back and I was like, wow, I was happy to be there. And now when I drive to the airport or something, I'll try and eke in an extra like 5 minutes so I can pull off, go up there and look at myself and laugh, and then jump back in the car and go to the airport. You know,
that's really cool, man.
And there's McDonald's across the street, so I always go and I'll get some fries, you know, because they have the best fries.
Oh, yeah.
So now, John, when you're like, "Hey, don't I look familiar? Can I get some free food here?" Like, hey, you know,
no, that's not the line. The line is, "Don't you know who I was?"
Yeah. So, all right, now Jerry, back to before you couldn't finish what you were saying about the legacy of Danzig within the genre and what newer bands. Go ahead, Jerry.
I think just as the 14 or 15-year-old me, you know, sometimes trips out that I'm proud and honored to be a part of the legacy of what Glenn created and what John and Erie did. You know what I mean? Like,
Chuck
to think that I have my little part in a band that I admired and loved so much, enough that I bought the tickets. I stood out in the cold by the buses for JC, for Erie, to meet them for 5 seconds to get their autograph, just like you would. You know what I mean? So I feel honored to have my small little moment, to be able to play those songs, for the people that love them just as much as I do.
Yeah.
And to be a part of the inner workings, you know, and be a part of it for a minute, even if it's just, you know, I was in it for like 8 years or something. But, you know, I love that. I love the legacy of the band. I think that Danzig is a band, and what JC and Erie and what they've done, it's going to be here forever.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
real
yeah.
Danzig, like it's Danzig will be always remembered and regarded. They may not have been as big as Metallica, but they'll be remembered just the same. And a lot of bands will come and go. But I think that
Sure.
there's something about the thing that you can't really put your finger on what it is about that band or those particular records. It struck a chord in everybody in a way that there were hundreds of other bands doing music at that time, but how many of them do people really attach to and really remember? You know what I mean? Like, you're going to remember Iron Maiden, Kiss. If you say, give me 20 metal bands, you see it all the time. And people always say Danzig, Misfits, Metallica. They put it up here, in a Pantera, that it's held in a very high regard, and that's how I hold it. And even being a part of the legacy of the band, it's something that I hold with with a lot of pride and honor. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
I feel like lucky to have done it. So as far as the legacy of the band, I don't consider myself like I was a part of that, like I was the guy or anything like that. I'm happy to have been a part of it, to play the songs, to keep the songs going that these guys wrote. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
But still internally, I still listen to those records, and I still feel I'm still in love with those records, the same that I was in 1990, 89, 90, 92, 93, 94. They still they resonate in my soul still. As far as new bands go that I feel that are cool or doing something interesting, there's a band that I'm in love with right now that's from Maryland called Turnstile. And they're like a punk rock trippy band, but it's just all energy. If you ever check them out, they're cool, but they're from Baltimore. I was out there a while back.
Now, to reinforce what Jerry said, he is a part of it. Maybe right now, history will write him in.
Circle of Snakes is a good album, Jerry. I'm sorry, Concrete Spew, and I do like Circle of Snakes. Sorry, John, I do like that album.
Yeah, but I'm coming from a fan perspective because I'm a fan. So to me, I consider Danzig the Danzig that I fell in love with. You know what I mean? It's happy and honored as I am to be a part of my we had a great fucking band, and the time that I had, to me, it's still, I get excited about, the OGs, it's huge to me.
What's nice
Go ahead, John.
That I thought that it, like everything, it was going to go through its news cycle and fade away and be put on a shelf. And it's like, it was nice. It was a good time, and we did some cool stuff and met some nice, some people. And I thought that was going to be it. But there was this undercurrent that just never died. And people started passing it down to their kids and their cousins and their friends. And when we were out there doing it, remember, Mother was the first single in '88 off of the first record, but it didn't break until Beavis and Butthead in '93.
Sure.
Just a re-release of it. And that television show was incredibly instrumental. And again, it took a village. It took everybody in our record company and everybody in publicity and all the people on the cruise and the tours and the opening band, everybody, to make it happen. And it was synchronicity, right place, right time for the country. But what we were getting from the fans on the road was, you guys were the soundtrack to my high school years. You guys were the soundtrack to my college years. We played you in the dorms. We sacrificed our livers to Danzig as we were puking to Mother and stuff. Yeah. People were filming it, and
help me get laid with How the Gods Kill. Yeah, exactly.
So and it was like, yeah, that's nice and all that. And you're like, yeah, that's great. But fans say a lot of stuff, So your focus is forward, your focus is ahead. So, and life is moving so fast, you don't really take, or at least I didn't take a lot of time to really ponder it and enjoy it. I didn't want to get ahead of myself or put too much importance on it, because we were not Guns N' Roses. We were not Metallica. You know, we were not Michael Jackson. We were the T-shirt act, you know, for the big guys. My biggest claim to fame really is the two that, well, I mean, touring with Black Sabbath and Tony Iommi and actually getting to touch his guitar was like, I touched it. Oh my God. It was like you got an electric shock, you know, and
you're a real person. You're a living human being.
Right.
You, like,
and now I'm calling him Uncle Tony, you know. When I met Robert Plant in Nuremberg, Germany, we were cycling back and forth. He was touring with Lenny Kravitz and part of one of these festivals, and we were touring, and Def Leppard was headlining, and Glenn and Elliot almost got in a fight over some spilled tea, literally. And my first introduction to Robert Plant is, he's your singer, and Mr. Elliot almost got into it. Nice to meet you. I'm like, you're kidding, right? And then, you know, so the thing is, the legacy for me is not so much the impact of the band and what that, so much of that was, like I said, all those people, timing, luck, whatever, the universe, and people identifying with the message. Because what was Glenn putting out there? What we were putting out there? We were putting out contrary opinions of the establishment. We were high energy. We were hardcore. We were not glammy. We were not flashy. We were just intense. And that appealed to youth, you know, from pubescent to college age to just at the end of college age. And then those people now grew up. They matured. They suffered through life just like the rest of us have. They have their own families. They have businesses. Now they have money. Well, you know what? They still enjoy some of the old music. And it hasn't gone away and it hasn't faded. So if it weren't for that, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be teaching in a studio somewhere, and well, I wouldn't be like, you know, called back. They called me out. They dug me up. They said,
Yeah.
no, you cannot die. We want you to come back and play this stuff one more time. And I'm like, are you serious? And they're like, we're deadly serious. I'm like, okay, all right, let's do it.
Yeah. And Jonas would probably like rap music.
it's funny. It's funny I say that because, you know, when we're younger, you don't, you know, you were going and going and going, and you don't realize that you're living the moments. You know what I mean? You don't. I never. You know, you don't grab onto those things.
No,
I mean, you don't know. You don't have time to do that. You're kind of in your own thing, and then, you know, it's that thing of like, we're always living these moments, and it's important to realize that you are living things that you're going to miss even right now. Sure. You know what I mean? And to give a fuck about them, and to really kind of take a second and look around and be like, fuck yeah, because I'm going to miss this someday.
Right. Now, Jerry, maybe, I mean, I'm sure you identify this too. When you're in an album cycle, right? Yeah. When most of the stuff is down and you're coming into the final stages, you know, there's going to be press coming up. There might be videos, you know, there are going to be shows here and there, and then there's going to be the tour. Now, it's like the relief was almost like a vacation.
It is.
You're in the studio where you're supposed to be 12, 16, 18 hours a day. You go home wiped out, you crash. You get up, you eat, you rinse, repeat, you go back in, right?
I talk about this all the time to people.
Yeah, you're doing your thing, right? And the people at the studio are cool. Everybody gets it. You know, you're on the same space. And it's awesome. But as soon as you step foot out that studio door now,
then you have to shift gears into another life again and reacclimate, you know?
But in the cycle now, you're performing.
Yep. I
Every
know
way
what you're
your
saying.
head turns, everybody you interact with, it's a show.
Yep.
It's a show. So, and then when you get on tour, the only time it's not the show is with the band backstage or on the bus or in a hotel lobby or something. The rest of the time, and you might, like we talked about, you get up or you drive all night, you're going from like Nashville to Denver or whatever, long ass ride, right? 12-hour ride or whatever it is. And then you roll into the hotel at about 6:30 in the morning. You crash, you wake up about 1 or whatever. There's a sheet under your door that tells you what hotel, what day it is, what city you're in,
Yep.
what rooms everybody's in, what press you have, what gig you're at, what time the bus call is, and blah, 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 blah. And then, okay, then it's like, all right, you're still quiet, but then boom, you get in the shower, you come out, okay, switch, doing my press, doing my publicity. And then it's, even when you get to the bus now, it's a different show. Now you're putting on a show for the band. I got to look cool. I got to be good. I got to show prepared. I can't be down. I got to be up. Blah, 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 blah.
Yep. You don't want to be the one that's in the drama,
And it's on and it's on and it's on, and it doesn't shut down until that last note of the encore. But you're not done, because now you got to go backstage. You got meet and greets. You got all these people you got to be nice to. You got band members, families, girlfriends, all this, moms, dads, blah, 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 blah. And it just rings you out. Yeah. And you hear about people in entertainment being hospitalized for exhaustion. It's because they're doing 8, 9, 10 shows a day. Then they jump on a bus and they vibrate, or they get on a plane. They never recover. So you're just gradually draining your tank. And then you finally get wasted. You come home and the record company goes, we need an album in a month.
Yep. It's funny that you bring this up, because people will ask me certain things because they think, A, I'm rich, B, it's a fucking this or that. And I'm like, what it really is it's like, there's this constant cycle. So like what you said, I go on the road, I'm the other Jerry. I got to shake hands. I'm nice. I got to deal with this. And you got to deal with the inner workings of whoever you're working with, whatever band, whatever dramas life throws in that. Then, boom, 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 bus, hotel, like you said, you get back, it's 2:00 in the morning. And then they're like, we got a long drive tomorrow or a long flight. So bus call tomorrow, 7 a.m. That means I got to get up at 6 a.m. That means I sleep 3 hours. And then boom, 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 on and on and on. And you do that, and you can get in a good rhythm. For me, I can get in that rhythm. It's like I'm a fighter, an athlete, boom, 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 let's go. I can go on the stage, destroy it, do my thing, and I live for it. But then there's the part of what you're talking about. You come home, you decompress, and then you're in the mental, like the fighter mode. And then they're like, okay, now we're going to make a record. Then you start to second guess the creative process. Now for me, I'll be like, fuck, I hope I can write a song again. Being in the studio now stresses me out, because I'm used to, I just want to stay in the live mode, but now I have to switch over. So it's hard to switch over. Then you get comfortable in the studio environment to where you're relaxed. Your belt's fucking, you can let the belt loose. You're having lunch. You're, in a calm environment, you're creative, and it's starting to flow again, and you get used to that. Then it's done. Then it's like, okay, fuck, I hope I can get back into then it's the mental anxiety of going back into the live mode for me, because that's a whole thing. I hope I can do it like I did it at the level that I did before. I got to be ready. I got to drop 15 pounds. I got to do this. I got to do that. And it's time. You got to look your part. You got to do your job. You know what I mean? And it's like this ever cycle. Then it's like, okay, a few months in, then you're back in fight mode. And then you do that for a few years, and it's like, okay, we're going back to the studio. And you're like, fuck, I hope I can write another song as good as that one.
Right.
Fuck, I got to go, and it's like this never ending cycle of you live in one world, and then as you get comfortable in it and you get good in it, then it's time to move back into the old world where you got to be a certain level again. And, a lot of people don't understand that part of it, but there's a lot of stress and anxiety in that whole situation, not to mention inner dynamics of what's always, swirling around you at one time. Is in any band, you're either the guy who's fucked up and that's causing the drama, or you're in a band with a guy who's fucked up and causing the drama. There's a lot of times when you get on a quiet bus because somebody else fucked up or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then there's this, or you hire somebody who's, talks too much, and they're like saying, hey, just so you know, Jerry did this and then, the old thing where you're like, you whisper something in someone's ear, and then after 10 people, it's like, John went to the store to get milk. John killed somebody last night at a time. It turns into something
like a trickle effect,
Yeah. So, you're always, you're in a constant movement. You're dealing with personalities. And then, on top of that, then you have to be careful for the outer world, because, I have to be mindful of, I'm in a shit mood because something happened and I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I just want to get the fuck out of here. But the person who wants to say hi to me is me waiting outside the bus when I waited all night to meet John Christ.
Exactly.
And it mattered to me still to this day, 27 years later, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? 30 years.
You know what, Jerry? I feel you exactly, and I feel like the time is getting long. So it's like I'm going to do something because I want to hear what you're doing right now. And you guys have helped me hook up with connections and do some conventions. I'm doing Days of the Dead, right, in Indianapolis. Not this coming weekend, but the weekend after, right, 23rd, 4th, and 5th. Indianapolis. There are a bunch of great splatter flick people going to be out there. Some tribute bands, Metallica bands. I'm playing with Giznad out there. We're getting ready to relaunch my website, so you can send me any questions you want at info@johnchrist.com. And I'm soliciting ideas because at the college where I teach for the community, I create some of my own classes, and I did one called Stress-Free Guitar. And because there are a lot of stressed out guitar players out there that want to play, that don't have a place to go, that have questions about certain things, that normal teaching is just not working. And I have a class where it's like, you come, you chill, we burn some incense, we listen to some music, I play for you, I answer your questions, we get together, play if you want. If not, I'll play for you. Bring a guitar. If you don't feel like it, don't bring a guitar, right? So it's really working, and people are coming out that haven't played in 20 or 30 years, and now they're meeting other players and other musicians, and I'm going, I never would have thought that would happen just by creating a class with a funny title. So I want to expand upon that and get that out, and do group lessons, do private lessons. If you need me for a cocktail party tomorrow, I'm ridiculously expensive. But if it's an emergency, you get a bank approval note that your loan has been approved, and I'll be on the next flight. I can be an emergency wedding player. I got a bat mitzvah coming up next year, just because I want to be able to say that, yes, Jerry Seinfeld, I in fact have performed at a bat mitzvah. For me, and I want to play with as many different types of musicians as I can. I love rock, I love blues, I love jazz, I love country, I love pop, I love classical, and I read and I write. So I want to play with all these different types of musicians and groups, Nashville, LA, Chicago, London, St. Petersburg, Moscow, Tokyo, everywhere, because you guys are saying, come back. So I'm coming. I'm just letting you know. And I'm playing some benefits too. I'm a sucker for kids benefits. There's one in September called standstock.org. It's in Maryland, and we're raising money for the families of terminally ill children.
Oh, that's awesome.
So standstock.org. And so that's part of it. My teaching is kind of trying to give it back, pay it forward, whatever you want to call it. And it's all about, the music is pure, right?
the language itself, the form of expression. There's no bias, there's no judging. We all have access to it. We all understand the feeling when, we all remember our first rock concert, right? We remember the band, we remember how old we were, we remember where it was. That is the beauty of music. That's what brings us all together. That's why we're all connected. We're in 5 different cities, right? But we're all connected.
Countries, too.
Countries, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
So that pure source, whether it's music, whether it's art, writing, print, paint, whatever, it's the same source. And the more time we can spend there together, the happier we're all going to be.
John, to add on to what, just watching you and Jerry for 2 hours, I think both of you should come together and create a John and Jerry podcast. Because I can just listen to you guys go back and forth. I am not joking. Patrick has said maybe 4 sentences.
So who's the cat and who's the mouse?
Exactly.
So I don't know, Patrick, what are your thoughts? I mean, I would love to watch the John and Jerry podcast.
All right, Patrick.
I have one question I've been sitting on since you got here, John. And my question is, how the hell do you make that acoustic guitar sound so absolutely awesome?
It's the guitar. It's a Martin. They're designed to sound that way.
I love Martin.
It's amazing.
It's just, there's something about it that's really neat. I was playing this song the other day, and I heard it a million times, but I wanted to learn it, and it was. That, right? We all remember the first time we heard that song.
Good luck trying to sing that one, right?
So here's the beautiful thing. My voice is exactly 1 octave below Sting's.
Oh, really?
So I can do the country western grassy knoll thing, Roxanne. You don't have to put on the red light. But so the vocals are just a way to back up the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
The guitar is going to do everything. Like, we talk about Devil's Plaything.
Yeah.
And I like to play it. So the melody is. Right. I love doing that song because whoa. My favorite part of the whole song is when Glenn does the harmony.
My favorite part.
And the drum fills.
The other thing is, we talk about all this stuff. Chuck Biscuits, an alien. Came from another time, dimension, space, different, dropped off from the mothership, right? Started touring when he was 13 years old.
Yeah, man.
Vancouver, his older brother, Dimwit, amazing drummer.
Yeah.
Right? We lost him to an OD. He'd been sober for 14 years, went back, copped, boom, done.
Yeah.
Right? They had a lot of tragedy. Chuck's brother Bob was his drum tech forever. Great guy, man. You know, Chuck, we were roommates for years. You know, so it's when a band breaks up, it's a divorce, man. It's the worst feeling. You just want to die because you've been
100%.
living a dream, you know, and you see it falling apart, and you're doing everything you can to try and keep it together. And at some point, you know, you just got to pull the plug. Sounds like there's song lyrics in here, right? I need a song on Flesh Caffeine called "I'm Gone," and it has something to do with that. But but the thing is, when we were young and when we were dumb, and you know the rest of the phrase, and we were together playing in a little tiny, stinky, sweaty gym locker room type rehearsal space where we didn't know where it was going to go. And you look at Chuck's fingers and they're just bruised and the flesh is torn up and his knuckles are bloody and he's sweating all over the kit and there's sawdust around him and he looks like Animal from the Muppets. And here's Vaughn's over there banging his head and his hair is flying and Glenn's wailing. I'm just like taking the whole thing in going, wow, this is cool.
Well, John, it's your sound that made his other bands famous. You know, Danzig was #1. Then people started moving on to the Misfits and Sam Hain. It's because of
that's your generation. That's not mine.
Yeah.
Okay. That is a complete. That's all legacy stuff because you know, Glenn. When we got together, remember, Sam Hain had been trying to get a guitar player for a year because Ruben saw him and said, man, you guys are great. Just need a solid guitar player and I'll sign you for a deal and blah, blah, blah. He said, you know, I love the energy. I love the songs. I love Glenn's vocals. You know, he just needs next level people that can put him in a real studio with real engineers, real talent, and just let him rip. You know, let her rip. And Rick's thing is he nurtures the creative in you and he tries to create an atmosphere where you can bloom and he waters you and watches and encourages and he loves to see that process through, right? So he could see the big picture of what it was. And Glenn knew it too because he was doing everything. He was writing everything. He was playing drums. He was playing guitar. He was playing engineer. He was playing producer. He was having the vinyl pumped out. He was printing T-shirts. He was mailing shit out. He was calling the promoters. He was calling managers. He was doing every freaking thing by himself because that's what you did in punk rock days.
Sure.
You know, for him to finally get to a place where there was infrastructure underneath him to where he could make a phone call and things got done. Oh my God. That released so much more energy to go into the music, just to focus it to that laser point where it needs to be. So then you get that boom, you plug right into the source. And he could follow his whim. He could follow his inspiration and just let him go. You know, there are a lot of times we were getting ready to go into the studio. He didn't have lyrics written for a song yet. He had a couple of, you know, things in a chorus here and there. But it didn't matter because the vibe was already there, right? And it was getting better. And it was just, you could feel it. Okay, it's time to go in and lay this stuff down, right? So we were fortunate to just find each other for that brief period of time.
And you know what? Yes, it is my generation because Mother was the first song I ever heard from an old VHS, heavy metal VHS copy with like the animations with the big titty girls and stuff like that.
What's weird is like, back when I was, I must have been 12. I don't remember how I was, but I would take a cassette and you'd put it in the cassette recorder, and then there would be the rock show on whatever syndicated thing, and I'd press record. And so whatever, I would listen to that over and over because I would get all the songs on it. But I was staying with my mom in Salt Lake City, Utah, and there was an ad on my recorded thing that said Danzig playing in Utah, and it was on the first record. So I don't know if the record had come out yet, but it was like a little club that they were playing at. And I had this thing, and all that I heard from this ad was a little snippet of Mother, and it gives me goosebumps. It had a little snippet of Mother in the background. And I was like, I caught on to whatever that music was and that voice and that thing. And I was like, whoa, what is that? Like, what the fuck is that? Danzig is that. But
and here's the thing, with the steadying, guiding influence of Rick Rubin, who also had his sidekick, George Trikulius, who discovered the Black Crowes, they were inseparable. They were at all the rehearsals, all the studios, everything. And they could encourage Glenn to go more Orbison or more Elvis or more Morrison or hard, more whatever he wanted to do. And
he would listen.
He listened and he trusted him. He didn't always agree with him, but he was willing to try it. And that was a lot of fun for me because, I never met a repetition I didn't like. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of fun to be the human guitar loop machine for these guys. And I would play so many variations. I don't even remember what they were, but I just kept churning. And
that's cool.
Glenn would sing and he would wail and then he would slow it down and he would like vocalizations like he was singing verses, but he didn't have it yet. And then we would go back to a chorus and then we would hit something and Ruben would be like, whoa, what was that? What was that? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Or he would hear something and say, it's almost there. Just try this, pull this note out, bend that one, bend it. That was the biggest thing because when Rick and I finally got into like She Rides, in that section.
I just think of Mark's legs.
Right.
Oh, fuck.
When we started doing that kind of stuff, and then I could still, it was just like we started combining it all, and then I look at Erie, and he would smile, and look at Chuck, and Chuck's like, "Oh, I know what I'm doing now." If you're doing that, I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. And then as things got together, and Erie and Chuck and I would rehearse like 3 times a week sometimes, without Glenn, without Rick. They might show up once a month, and we would go in and we would just start adding all of our own stuff. We almost had different versions of everything. Like a practice version where we could just jam and do whatever. And then when Glenn and Rick would come in, we would tone things down a bit. And then that was more, pre-production was more about, okay, let's get the arrangement right. Let's make it flow. Let's make it feel good. Because by that time, we were so close to it, bass, drums, and guitar, that we needed fresh ears to pull us back a little bit.
Yeah,
sure.
It'd been under a microscope for so long, and you can only pick the molecules and the atoms apart, and they're like, well, I guess this is what it is, But when everybody was together in rehearsals and in the studio, it was just, it was like if you ever drunk a really good champagne or glass of wine, even if you're not a drinker, okay, or even coffee or tea, it's not the first sip. First sip is nice. Second sip is a little bit better, but that third or fourth sip, when you just feel it and it all comes together, it's warm, it's comforting, but it's energizing. That's what would happen when it was just right.
Are you describing the Turkish tea I sent you?
Uh-oh.
I like the coffee better, but the tea's good, yeah.
Yeah, so, hey, but Patrick, listen, it's 12 20 a.m. in the morning in Turkey, and I just, it's my bedtime.
that's
John,
fine.
go ahead, make a joke about me, John. Go ahead.
This guy, why are you sleeping, man? There's so much to do.
That's right.
Well, but Patrick, but still, no, I'm being totally honest with the both of you guys, but just listening to you guys go back and forth, I would love it if you guys could do something together. I mean, you guys have so much knowledge about everything about what?
Just
No,
have
no,
it back one time. It's
why
great.
not just make the Jerry and John show, man? And then you guys bring in guests like, hey, we're gonna talk to.
And I can be y'all's moderator.
Well, I guess you're good because we've already been doing gigs. We just haven't told anybody about it yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're
Yeah, so-
keeping it
Jason's
quiet.
He's gonna play on my record.
Yeah, so Jerry, now we have new people joining in. Let's plug your stuff, and John just plug this.
Yeah, man, I'm finishing up my record. I'm in the middle of it. After I get off this, I'm gonna head over and do some vocals, and it's all coming together. Once I get it all, now that I have almost everything recorded, get all the vocals done, then I'm gonna start sending songs out to people to play on it. And I'm gonna get John to play some fucking guitar solo on it. I'm really excited about it. Basically, I'm having all my favorite. I'm doing this record, it's going to be killer. But then there's the 14-year-old me that's like, maybe I'm going to get all of your favorite players to play on your record.
You're pro-botting
It's
it.
a combination of a fan record, and they used to call them a vanity album.
Yeah.
Right? When all the big players would go and do their solo albums, they called them vanity albums, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, I know exactly what Jerry's talking about because I would so love to write a song with Ozzy Osbourne or have a jam with Ted Nugent. My other claim to fame, which I know some people know, but not a lot of people know, is that Ozzy Osbourne was the one that finally told me, John, you got to quit. You have to leave. That now is the time you got to go. And so there you go. It's not my fault. It's Ozzy's fault that I left him.
Yeah,
He is
meddling.
Ozzy's such a good dude, man. He's always that's another one of those people I got to know very well, the family and Ozzy, and what a funny character, but a good person. It's so interesting to watch. He's it's almost like he's like how a possum plays dead. He'll play. I don't know where I'm at around everybody, so he can kind of get out of there. And then when you're with him, he's just like, go ahead, live, no problem.
He would start out in the 90s. He would start out with I'm the world's biggest hypochondriac. I come down with symptoms of everything that I see on CNN.
Oh, yeah.
But in the background, he's vetting you very carefully.
Exactly.
And he knows he's paying very close attention to everything you're saying, everything, your body language, he's taking it all in.
Yeah.
And you just go right along with it because you're in the presence of Ozzy.
Well, then once he knows that you're okay and they know you're okay, then they just treat you like they're your family.
That's cool. So,
I'm excited about a lot of shit coming up.
Plug your socials, by the way. Follow Jerry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's right there, Jerry at Jerry Montano. You can find me on anything: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Instagram's probably best. Find me there. And guys, I had the best time. I mean,
it's been awesome.
As soon as you brought up this idea, I was so excited because JC and I have become pretty good friends because of you guys, and we have long conversations about all the things we can't talk about, and we have the best time. And we hadn't spoken a couple of weeks, so it's been great to reconnect. And I'm just excited about the future of everything, And
it's a lot of fun. And again, Jerry's a great guy. We're going to do more stuff in the future, and we're trying to. You guys are making
podcast.
You guys are making these bridges. Right?
You're
making things together. Like I've got, some great people that are getting ready to relaunch, johnchrist.com. There's going to be an online store. There are going to be subscriptions. There's going to be all that modern stuff, right? That I've been avoiding for decades. Well, now I'm catching up and I got a great team that's helping me. Right. Thanks to guys, like James and Jerry. I'm back on the John Christ Instagram and Twitter. I don't do much tweeting, but Facebook is coming. All of it's starting to come together. So be patient with me. And my buddy said, tell them info@johnchrist.com. Send everything there. Don't give them your personal email address. They'll overwhelm you. I'm like, okay. So that's what I'm doing. But here's the thing. I want to go. I believe that in every city, there's amazing talent. You just got to find them, and you got to get them to come out of their house for a couple of hours and play. So that's part of what the stress-free thing is. I'm trying to get musicians to come out again post-COVID, right? Everybody was locked away. We're finally starting to come out. So come out, let's play, let's talk, let's share music, and see how high a level we can take it. Because my thing has always been, I've always been pushing the level. Some of you guys know, I've had some near-death experiences, and I've had a lot of physical things going on, and some other drama.
Which is talked about I'm sorry, John, but which is talked about in the Frooms interview you've done with Frooms recently.
Yeah.
I love him.
But the good thing about it is that I know I'm not unique. Okay. I'm just like everybody else. We're just trying to get through the day and do the best that we can. Right. We're so lucky. There's so many people that are far more challenged and have so much more stuff. We're blessed to be doing what we're doing. And the fact that I still have people that want me to come play for them and just want to hear those old songs makes me want to push my level that much harder. And it's like, okay, you know what? I'm pushing 60, man. How many years, good years, do I really have left? I gotta, like my buddy Garth in Northern Ireland says, John, you got to get in shape. You got to do it. So I'm going to the doctors. I'm getting the test. I'm getting the operations. I'm taking the vitamins. I'm getting the blood draw. All this crazy crap that we have to do that we didn't have to do when we were invincible in our 20s, right? But the beauty of the internet is people still care. We're still relevant. And I'm going, I never thought that anybody would care about anything after I left the band. I thought it was done, over.
John, do you
I
know?
went to see Paul McCartney a year ago today at Camden Yards in Baltimore, and he was 2 weeks away from turning 90, right? Was it 90 or 80? I think it was 80. You guys tell me. Somebody fact check me.
Probably 80s. Paul McCartney?
Yeah, 80, I think it's 81 maybe or something.
Okay, but anyway, it was 2 weeks from his birthday, and he put on an amazing show, right? At that age. And I could tell by watching him. I was with a bunch of students and stuff, but I could see how much time he put in, how much thought. He sketched it out. He planned it out. He had a ton of people, infrastructure setting this up, right? The screens on each side of the stage, 60 feet high, millions of dollars. It probably took 5-6 days to set things up in the stadium. This is the top guy, right? The top of the heap for rock and roll, still at it, and I learned a lot from watching him, from listening to him. When the whole crowd, he did stops in the middle of the songs, obla di, obla da. Okay, the guys sing. Okay, the girls sing. So everybody sings. They stop the music, and you heard 30,000 people singing together in one place, and it gave you the chills, right? And what I learned was that level, we can do that level in smaller places everywhere if we just push it and get each other to help and do it. The quality has got to go up. The quality has to keep going up. We cannot get lazy. We got to keep pushing it.
I agree.
Okay.
Patrick spoke on his own show? Oh my God. This is the first. Patrick, go ahead.
No, I just want to say thank you to everybody who helped put this together. I want to thank the Friendly Men for doing this, helping us put this together. I want to thank, of course, the mighty Jerry Montano, the mighty John Christ for coming out and just slaying it. That the chat today has absolutely been explosive. I cannot thank you enough. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. That would help me out. I do this show at least a minimum of 3 times a week. So, like I said, if you're new to the channel, we do this sort of thing 3 times a week. So come on out and hang out again. And
Hey, John,
I definitely want to
Patrick-
see.
Go ahead, Pat.
I definitely would like to let Jerry and John both know that they are welcome back anytime they wish to come back.
Patrick, thank you for
Thank
having
you,
us, man.
Patrick.
You've always been a great guy. Jonas, always a pleasure. And anytime I see you anywhere, I'm like, Jonas!
Always good to see you, man.
Thank you for connecting the two of, JC and I. I mean, if it weren't for you two, we wouldn't be here doing this right now. And John, fuck, it's always great to talk to you. And I'm going to call you later this afternoon from the studio and we'll chat about some stuff. And guys, thank you for having me. Everybody that came with questions, that support these guys for doing something cool for everybody else, man. Thank you for supporting these guys and for supporting us and for being here. For the people that watch this later, I mean, continue to support these kind of shows and all of us that are in this creative world so that people will keep bringing cool content, man. And find JC and I on Instagram. And thank you for having me, man. I'm going to go fucking scream my guts out for
That's it. Now that you got a little bit, 2% of a voice left, you're ready.
Exactly.
You're in good company. You're in good company, right?
Exactly.
Because wasn't it John Lennon? One of their early albums, when his voice was all raspy, there's a great interview with Paul McCartney. He said that he'd been singing 5 or 6 times. He'd been smoking all day long. And they got that session at 1 o'clock in the morning, and he had just enough vocal, to pull it off
perfectly.
And that's why they call it capturing the performance. One of the most important things in a great rock and roll record is you have to have a great vocal performance. There's something about the human voice that cuts through all the crap and can touch our heart. So now, Jerry, go do it.
I'm on it. All right, guys. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And this is Jonas's last interview before he goes to Alaska.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to be closer to me and JC now going to Alaska.
Yeah.
Catch some fish.
Polar bears.
Hey, Jonas, where are you?
Right now?
Yeah.
I'm in Houston.
Oh, you're in Houston. I thought you were in some other fucking country.
No,
that's me, man. That's me.
I know that's
James
you. I
Turkey.
thought you both were.
I'm in
All right,
Houston.
guys. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's been awesome.
For sure.
All right, everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you. I'll be back tomorrow night with Elise Mola Devereaux at 8 o'clock. Hopefully, I'll see some of you there. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, and good night.
Good night,
Take care,
guys.
y'all.
Guys.
Take care, fellas. Whoa. All right. Bye, John. Take care, Johnny.
All right, guys.
See
We'll
you,
see you.
John. See you, man.
All right.